Take.
Good evening. How are you?
BBC Radio Manchester.
My name's Allan Beswicks. This is the Allan Beswicks Late Night Phone-In. We're here till 1 o'clock. If you want to join us, you can. The number's 0800 218 2255. You can talk about absolutely anything. And, you know, we don't mind. We just sit here, await your call, and once we've got your call, we have a chat. Because that's what we do. Luke will take your call, he'll answer the phone to you, and then when he's done that, you get some minor details, a couple of words about what you're going to talk about, which he doesn't tell me, by the way. But anyway, so that we've got a rough idea, just in case you're going to say something that will end us all in jail, which I'd prefer not to happen. You can go if you like, but I'm stopping out. So that sort of thing. Anyway, so we do that. And then they'll ring off, and they'll ring you back. Talit will ring you back on your phone at our expense so that we can then get the job underway. So that's how it's done. He'll connect you with Jane, who's in the studio, and we will operate therefrom with our conversation on any subject you choose. 0800 218 2255. My traditional look at the newspapers has taken place, and a deal in Northern Ireland is said to be close, and then not so close. And just a few hours later, an off-duty cop is shot in front of a load of kids by an IRA spin-off, it is alleged. The incompetence and false promises of our politicians are still being paid for in Irish blood. There was a wartime mantra. There were posters all over the place, on trains, on buses, on advertising hoardings. And the mantra was, and it would be good if our current leaders could take a bit of it on board, and it said, careless talk costs lives. Turns out it does. As some supermarkets ration salad items, I went into my local one yesterday and bought 2 butter red lettuces and half a kilo of very fine tomatoes. I like a salad almost as much as I enjoy a gloat. Meanwhile, Teresa Coffey told the poor and others that they should eat more turnips. That's what we need, dietary advice from a chunky moneybags who smokes like a chimney. She seems to have stolen my mum's motto, do as I say, not as I do. And I did have a little chuckle today, just walking down the street, a little chuckle. A sign on an Asian restaurant window said, "Nothing has been taken out of our dal." I still like it. It made me smile. Anyway, they've turned the back on that now, and they're going to publish as was. On Monday night, the excellent Hugh Edwards on the 10 o'clock news introduced an item about the disgraceful social media antics around the death of Nicola Bulley, with the words, "Here is our disinformation correspondent." I nearly fell off my chair. A disinformation correspondent? What crazy world is this we're now living in? And John Motson, football commentator extraordinaire, has died, and with him has gone any chance of sports commentators keeping their trap shut on everything else. All he talked about was football. And that's what you want from a football commentator. Football. These days, they're all experts on everything. Just carry on with the football and keep your gums together on everything else. And then Joe Biden's been in the news, President of the United States, of course. He visited Ukraine this week. He flew in from America on Air Force One, that big plane, and he landed in Poland, and then took a 10-hour train journey to Kiev, and thus removed the risk of being blasted out the sky by the Ruskies. 10 hours there, 10 hours back. The last time a United States president, as far as I can tell, was, well, the last time they travelled at such a great length was in 1963, when John F. Kennedy travelled the length of the United States on a train. He didn't complain, but then he couldn't. He was on his way to his funeral. Trains and boats and planes. Good evening, how are you? Are you all right? Yeah, Saturday night. Comes round, doesn't it? Every week it comes round. Gets quite monotonous. 0800 218 2255 to join us. We're here until 1. And, well, we would love to hear from you. Howdy, Keith.
Hello. The most luxurious prison. I don't suppose you watched that programme the other night.
Yeah, it was in Norway or somewhere up there, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Holden, it's called. And what I like was Anne Widdicombe comes in. She says, "There's no bars." I thought, what do you expect, a nightclub? But she meant the bars on the windows.
Yes, I see. Yes.
You see where I got confused on that one?
I can see it entirely. I can.
Yeah, and they've got a radio station to do radio broadcast in there as well.
Well, they've got them in our prisons. There's a radio station in...
radio station?
Yeah, there's a prison radio. I've even been on it.
Well, I haven't been in, you see, so I wouldn't know these things.
Well, I've not been in, but I was invited to go along. In fact, a woman that used to work at BBC Radio Manchester went and organised it for quite a long time.
Yeah. Anyway, after that, I was watching Secret Getaways, you know. And these are the people on the outside of the prison now. A hut in Sweden, and it's just a hut. And you've no water unless you go to the local stream. You've no cooking facilities much. You haven't got anything. And this is a exclusive do, you know.
Well, some people like the peace and quiet.
Well, yeah. And there was this other one, the Crane Hotel in the Netherlands. And it's just at the top of the crane, but of course you can't be expected to climb the ladder, so they've built a lift to get you up there. Right. And you can choose what colour you would like the light while you have a pee in toilets up there, you know.
What difference does the colour of the light?
Well, exactly, it doesn't mean a thing, does it?
Well,
it makes that
clearly
prison look pretty good to me.
Yeah, the difference is, and it was made during the prison programme, that the exciting people, or clowns, depending on which side of the fence you're on, that go up the crane and have a multicoloured pee and spend the night there as if it were a hotel, they choose it, and the prisoners don't really.
Yes, that's the difference.
And they can go home if they don't like it. Well, this is awful. The light in the toilet, it was blue. I'm not having a blue pee. I don't care. Peas are meant to be green anyway. So I'm going home. But you can't do that in prison, whatever the colour the light in the bog is.
I know. Right, I'll get off now.
Okay. Ta-ra now. I'll do Ray.
Hi, Alan. I'd like to talk about what Lee Anderson said about the death penalty. I know what he's trying to say, because if someone's like,
well, are you talking about the words that he seemed to have used? Nobody who's been executed reoffends.
Yeah, well, I think that's what he's. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Where he but I don't know whether I must have misheard what he was saying about the death penalty. I don't know. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're asking me what he said?
Yeah, what he was saying, because I think I said the death penalty, but I don't know, you might have corrected me.
No, I was just making sure we were talking about the same thing. If you're talking about the politician who said he's a supporter of the death penalty and said nobody who's executed reoffends, in that sense he's correct, isn't he? What's your view about the death penalty?
I'm just saying, if someone who's murdered like a child or something like that, then maybe you could say oh well, that could be considered. It could be necessarily on that one, because if someone's murdered a child, there's no way you can rehabilitate someone on that. Keeping them in prison is costing the taxpayers a lot of money, you see.
So the death penalty, one either is in favour of it or against it, in essence. As soon as you start picking and choosing your crimes, what you're doing is saying, I think it's horrible, I think it's weird, I think it's wrong, except. So you don't think it's wrong, you think it's right, if you like. So I'm just saying, because you get all these liberals saying oh well, it's inhumane, but imagine if one of their family members got murdered, would they still be making excuses for the criminal? Would they still not be? They probably wouldn't, but the job of a parliament, at least, is to legislate in a way that they think is best overall for the nation. So that's their side of it. Now, people, liberals, as you might call them, people use that as if it's an insult, but liberals actually believe that the death penalty of itself is wrong, whatever the offence.
That's what I'm saying. It's just like I know what Lee Anderson's trying to say, but you know, I think people shouldn't hate him for it. You know, for what he's saying. I think people should look at it and go, well, you know, he's just a human being, just like everybody else is.
Yes, and he's expressing his point of view, and he's entitled to do that. What's one of the great things about our society? And you seem to agree with him in part by saying that it should be okay. It should be the case that people who are convicted of murdering children get executed. Am I correct in?
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. It's like, because the reason why I say that is because, like, people might say, "Oh, what happens if we execute the wrong person?" But we've got like DNA evidence, and that's all science. You know what I mean? So if you got DNA,
well, yes,
evidence,
it is. But the problem with DNA evidence is, whilst the DNA itself may well be almost certain, there's always the chance of error. There's always the chance of the police or whoever took the DNA from the scene of the crime did something wrong. That's possible. Our police have yet to become infallible. But in the end, do you want to be in a society that decides if they don't like what you have done, they reserve the right to kill you?
I mean, that's what I mean. It's like, yeah, I think one of the things people argue with is like, it's all to do with like, you know, like religion or that. Like we can't be playing with God or something like that. But I mean, that's
it's not religion as such. Religion is one of the processes by which people make their judgment as to what is right and what is wrong. But in the end, the death penalty comes down to a question, and the question is, do you, Ray, want to live in a society where if you do something that the society finds abhorrent, they will kill you?
Well, I mean, if society would say no, we can't do, we're not going to do it, then that's fine. If they vote against it, then there's nothing you can do.
They have voted against it. That is the law currently. But we're not discussing what the law is. We're discussing what you, Ray, want it to be. Now, there's no point having any conversation if all we're going to do is say, well, that's the law, so it's over. That is the current law. What do you think the law should be in relation to capital punishment?
I mean, I've always said, like, I always say, now the reason why what I compare it to is like, you know, like when like people might, I always say this, like, if a dog like just like attacks a child, the dog gets put to sleep, doesn't it? But the death penalty, if I'm talking about lethal injection, you're putting the person to sleep. It's like putting the dog down, isn't it? If that's an analogy for that.
Well, in the United States, where that was the case, they stopped doing it because they couldn't do it humanely. The drugs were found to not operate in the way they wanted them to operate, which was to provide an instant painless death. But all you're doing there is discussing process, which you're entitled to do. What I'm trying to find out is, what is your opinion about the death penalty? That's it.
I mean,
don't matter. How we do it doesn't matter. I'm interested in. What?
I'm just saying, like, lethal injection. I don't know. I don't even know if they banned it, but I wouldn't say hanging. I'd say more like that lethal injection, because if it's correct, if it's done in the correct way, then it's putting the person out of, well, like it can kind of bring closure to society. So I might go, well, if he's done something to us,
but then what I'm trying to get from you, you see, you say lethal injection. Well, okay, lethal injection may or may not be efficient, I don't know. But the person's still got to wait 6 months, knowing that on Tuesday the 8th at 4 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning, he's going to get a lethal injection, and after that he will be dead. So we know what capital punishment is. What I'm asking you is, what do you think about the principle rather than the process? We can discuss the process later, but what do you think about the principle? Do you think it's acceptable for a society to kill its own citizens?
Well, I'd say in a way, like, yeah, because that brings closure. That's what I'm saying.
To whom does it bring closure?
Yeah, I believe it brings. I don't know if it brings closure to people, but I don't know about the victims. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, the victims don't need it; they're dead.
Oh yeah, the victim's family.
And do you think the victim's family will think, "Oh well, he's been put to death now, so that's fine," or will they miss their loved one for the rest of their days anyway?
They'll still miss their loved one still.
So the closure isn't for the victim because they're dead, and it isn't for the victim's families because the victim's still dead.
Yeah.
And they still miss them and still have a hole in their life where the victim used to be.
Yeah.
So who's got closure?
Yeah, I mean that's what I mean. There's no win. I don't think there's any winners in that one.
Well, there aren't any winners, but we're coming back to your view of capital punishment. First of all, you wanted to talk about process, and then you came and said, well, at least it gives closure. But you and I seem to have just agreed that the victim doesn't get closure because they're dead. You might say they've already got it. The victims' relatives and people who miss the victims, their loved ones and friends, they don't get closure.
Yeah, they don't. Well, it does bring closure to society, like, doesn't it? Society will be like, well, he deserves that. That's what I'm believing. So,
I'll ask you the question again, because each time I've asked it, you've avoided it, and that's fine. But last chance. Do you want to live in a society where if the government disagrees with you, it will kill you?
Now that you've mentioned it, I'd say no.
Okay, well that's no death penalty then, isn't it?
No. And,
all right, good to talk to you. It's your view, you're entitled to it, mate. 0800 218 2255. I'll do Victoria.
Hello, Alan, it's me. How are you doing?
I'm awfully well.
Oh, good. Right, I phoned. It's the blind lady. I think you gathered that.
No, I didn't, but I now know.
Oh, good. Right. Well, now we've got that clear. I've phoned to tell you how I did try to apply to be a radio presenter.
Right.
I got 2 no's and I got 2 yeses. I understand you don't do names, so I'll not do that. But I did apply in 2019. I have studied radio production at a college for the blind in Hereford. But I'm terrible with computers, Alan, so I don't know how I got through the course. Do you?
I don't know what the course contained or involved, so I have no idea.
Well, it contains of putting speech packages together and editing and the likes. However, I just thought I'd tell you that. And another thing I'd like to discuss is, as a visually impaired person, I don't feel safe walking the streets alone. As much of a daredevil as I am and have been, I don't intend to. I've done mobility in the past. But I don't feel safe, so I get taxis everywhere. And what I'm trying to say is it's not a bad thing, and not to be embarrassed about getting taxis everywhere so that you keep safe, you know.
What is it that you're when you're about in the streets, when you were, what is it that made you feel unsafe? Was it your inability to get about, or was it something else?
Both, really. It was the inability to remember the maps of the routes in my head, but also I don't feel safe crossing roads because they can just come speeding at you at any point. And I'm scared of being attacked in the street, to be honest.
Are you aware of anyone that has been? Have you been?
I haven't as such, but I am aware of many people who have,
Blind people?
So, people with other disabilities as well. And able people, really. They've been attacked or been, forced to get in cars and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Women have.
I hear what you say. But do you think, this might sound like a daft question, do you think as a blind person you're more at risk on the street than a sighted person?
No, that's not a daft question, and yes, I do. I do feel like I'm more at risk, yeah.
Okay,
because
right.
A sighted person would see them. Yeah, definitely taxes it is. I know it's not cheap, but it does keep you safe. And the drivers do guide me as well. So if there's any other visually impaired people out there that are, God bless them, in my position, don't be embarrassed about it, because it is still being independent, even though it may seem as though it's not. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, using taxis is perfectly independent. You make your own judgments, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I do my own shopping, because what they do, they take me to Tesco's and I get staff to assist me around the store. So they assist me, and that's how I do it, I take myself to hospital appointments, medical ones, and doctor's appointments and whatnot. Do you know what I mean? You can still get around. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Going back to the original point, you applied to be a radio presenter. Did those to whom you applied and turned you down, did they tell you why they turned you down?
It was because I think I got the wrong end of the stick. I told them a story, but they wanted me to sell myself. Or I can't remember which way around it was now. But I got it wrong.
What did they say? And we can all make our own judgment on what they meant. What did they say to you?
They said you had to do a minute script about yourself. So they said, it's a good story. However, you didn't sell yourself, so it's a no from me. Right. The two people who said no, they said the same, for the same reason. Now, the two people who said yes said it is a good story, and you did sell yourself. So it's okay.
These things are all value judgments in the end.
Yeah, they definitely are. Yeah, but
were they looking? Were they looking for somebody? Were they looking for somebody who was visually impaired, or did you just apply?
Oh no, I just applied. Yeah.
That's fair enough. Good on you.
Yeah, thank you.
So, are you going to apply somewhere else again?
Yeah, if I find an opportunity, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Well, always jobs coming up. Always.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Have you tried any of the local stations, really small community stations, or hospital radio, for example?
I have done in the past, but not recently, no. I will have to get into that, actually, so thank you, you've just reminded me.
Well, lots of people in the business started out on community stations or hospital radio or student radio or any of those things. Loads and loads of people started there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, have a go at it. Good luck. Don't give up. Many people in this business take 20 or 30 applications before they make it.
course, definitely, yeah.
Lots of people want the job because it's easy money, that's for sure. And sometimes no money at all, but it's fun to do.
Yeah, of course, because you're engaging the listeners and that, aren't you? So,
in theory.
In theory,
I'll let others judge whether we are or not. But lovely to hear from you, Victoria. It's 0800 218 2255. I've never applied for a job, really. Never. I know, I'm a smart ass. How do, Malcolm?
How do. I said I'd talk a bit about railways and one or two other
You always
things.
do. I don't care what you said.
Yeah.
I only know what you're going to talk about when you talk to me.
Right. Well, I've just done a trip to Chester by railway, and then I came back via your hometown, Warrington Bank Quays. Well, it's got 2 railway stations, Warrington. Do you know this? I know that you don't use the railway much, or if at all.
But I do know that, yes.
Yeah. So I decided, because I live in Tyldesley, I thought I'd try something different, because up until a few months ago, whenever I went to Chester, I went into Manchester and then got a train from Manchester, Victoria or Piccadilly to Chester. But then someone suggested to me, or I was on a bus and someone said, well, you could get the one from Newton-le-Willows. So I went via Newton-le-Willows, and then I thought, right, previously I'd tried to come back and get off at Warrington Bank Quays, but I got lost. It was it was Sunday, and I couldn't find the bus station. I did finally, to get the bus, as it were, back to Leigh and then back to Tyldesley. But instead, I ended up getting a train, because it was a Sunday, and I learnt my lesson from that. Don't travel on a Sunday late at night if you're planning to come back by bus. So I duffed it. So instead, and as it happens, I had an Asian chap with me who'd also, he accompanied me. We wandered around the centre of Warrington, because I don't know it that well. And finally we got to the bus station. There didn't appear to be any buses on. It was late Sunday. So instead, we jumped on a train. I paid for him. I was in that generous mood. He didn't know. He was trying to get to Manchester, but they'd cancelled the train at Newton-le-Willows or something and offered us a bus service. So I didn't want to do that. So I ended up getting on the train, paying another fare, and getting from Warrington Central into Oxford Road, and then I came back. So it's quite a bit of a meandering trip, but that's the beauty of railways. It can be nice sometimes. You meet interesting people, and you find things out. And what I'm picking up is that a lot of people are in favour of Mick Lynch and his lot. I'm sensing that. I think that they want the existing
When you say
service.
Mick Lynch and his lot, are you referring to the trade unionist?
Yeah, the trade unionist Mick Lynch, and we're trying to protect those who support Lynch, and that includes myself as a passenger user. We're trying to protect the service. Now, you've just had this lady talking about her worries about going out in public and having to use a taxi. She's disabled, and there are a lot of disabled people who use the railways at the moment, because there's a lot of staff knocking around. You see people coming up and helping a blind person get onto the train. But apparently, according to the Metro, there's an alliance of disabled people who've said that if the government were to succeed in their objective of reducing the level of service, then it would make it almost impossible for a lot of disabled people to use the railways. And that's quite significant, really, because on the one hand they're telling us that they're in favour of reducing carbon footprint, and climate change is an issue, and therefore we should be using more public transport, more railways. And on the other hand, they're actually acting in such a way as to reduce the possibility of at least one section of society using the railways, and possibly, effectively, unless they're very wealthy, confining them to base. Because although a person might be able to afford a taxi to go within their own town, they wouldn't necessarily be able to afford a taxi to go from such and such to another town. So the railways come in. They're a useful thing. and I like the railways. I've liked them ever since I was a student. Obviously, I feel that the railways were better
So
when I was a student.
what's the point about this? What's the point about this almanac of journeys? What point are you making, Malcolm, in Tracy?
I'm making the point that we need to maintain the quality of service within the railways. I'm all for it. I think that it's a good thing. A lot of people like to use the trains, even wealthier people than myself, such as my brother, Professor Sutcliffe. He came up on the train recently just for the one night to Chester. A lot of people like using the trains. They like a good system.
Are you saying that the government should give the union what it is asking for? It's a yes/no question. And don't
yes,
tell me
I
I'm
am,
wrong.
yeah.
Right. Okay. Right. There you go.
Yeah, that's what I'm
That was
saying
easy,
on
wasn't
that.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
thank you.
Yeah. Do you want to?
Well, have a good night. No, that's fine. Right. I've got your opinion now. That's all I was seeking. But good on you. Thank you. I'll do Beverly.
Good evening, Allan. I had to look at the clock,
Good
see
evening.
what time it is. I've got a terrible memory at the moment, Allan.
Oh dear.
Anyway, I found up that is it right? Have I read it right in the papers that Vernon Kay is going to be taking over Radio 2, and the man who's doing it, is he retiring?
The fella that's doing it is leaving the BBC. I think I remember reading that he's going to a different radio station to present a programme there, thus leaving a vacancy, a hole in the schedule, which I am told by the press will be filled by Vernon Kay.
Does this man want to leave, or does he want to move on?
Well, I think the answer to that is yes and no. I think he's decided to leave. He made the point, when he announced that he was leaving, he made the point that he wasn't being sacked. He wasn't being told, you're not having your contract renewed or anything like that. He chose to leave. Now, whether things that are happening within his programme or what have you, I don't know. Whether somebody upset him, I don't know. But it was his decision to leave. And his complaint now is not that he's leaving, or even that Vernon Kay is taking over, but he fully, the guy that's doing it now, fully expected to work to his end of his contract, which is 6 or 7 weeks away. And the BBC has said, no, you might as well go now, because we want Vernon Kay to start thus. So that's as much as I know. All of which came from reading newspapers and the like. I have no inside knowledge. You seem to have disappeared, Beverly. There you go. How does Shafik?
I'd like to talk about the war in Ukraine. Yesterday, United Nations Security Council, the couple of members, they sit down the president was Malta, from Malta, and Russia UN ambassador said, why last 1 year, why not Latin America is a Security Council president, why not other country is a president UN Security Council? I believe so. Every 2 months from UN Security Council, the report to come to International Court of Justice. So if you want to war anything in this world, Court of Justice first seen, then after war. And other one is Russia must be stop the war because they permanent Security Council member. And in the present time, one messenger in this year, all Muslim people believe it in Quran. Only Quran is the last religion book. And I like to talk about the last everybody silent for 1 minute in the UN Security Council, and Russia UN ambassador they sit down after he walk out, and we thinking war start. No, it is not possible, man. I believe so. God knew how much powerful in this year. All I know, Battle of Badr until Second World War, First World War, and my mother country 1921 war. We win. Bengali win in 1971. We British win First World War, Second World War. We win World War. Even if Russia start war now, we must be win. Russia can defeat us because war in Ukraine, when Russia taking Crimea, the United Nations knew that because my writing not dissolved in the United Nations. One time, UN says General Assembly from Burundi, I write to him, please, sir, if Jesus Christ coming in this year, all kingdom will be dissolved automatically. No more queen.
Shafik, I will call you back as soon as Jesus Christ has arrived and say you were right all along, but otherwise I won't. But thank you very much. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. And I'm just going to make a cross because apparently Jesus is coming. Is George Michael in his careless whisper. Go to Kath.
Hi, Alan.
Hiya.
Just before I go on my subject, what I want to talk about, I wish everybody could live as one. I really do. I mean, I love that song, and if we all could get along, life would be a lot easier.
Wouldn't it just?
Well, it's true, isn't it? About Men in Black. Is it a cult? Or has it been? And does it still exist?
I don't know what you mean. The only Men in Black I know are the films Men in Black.
No, this was back in the 70s, and there was.
Right.
I don't know how it came about. They were supposed to be able to, and it's things that are going on now apparently, where people can actually get into, not into your mind, but where they can actually predict what you're going to do through electronics. And I find it quite disturbing, to be honest. If somebody can see what you're going to do before you do it, and the consequences a lot of the time are not very good. And I'm just wondering if any other listeners have heard.
Well, we'll find out, but I'm not aware of anyone who has the ability, electronically or otherwise, to predict what a person is going to do. Other than in films.
No. It's like when people express the Men in Black, it's not a person who's dressed in black. It's like a cult that it was notorious around where I lived for many years, where people disappeared without trace, and that's been going on for a long time. Maybe I've got the wrong.
Well, people have been disappearing without trace for a very, very long time, and thousands of them in this country every year do so. Indeed, the awful case, the sad case of the woman who's just died in the river and gone missing for a couple of weeks. Indeed it is, but the point I was going to go on to was that a number of people have disappeared whose bodies have never been found, and that's gone on for a long, since well before electronics. It's been going on we're talking about thousands of people a year in this country alone who go missing.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's just going back, obviously, back a long time. Since a long time for me, it's but there were people who disappeared through this cult, whatever it was, before technology took over, I'm just trying to say how it was then, before a lot of the technology came into these days, where now it's like people taking over our thoughts and whatever. I don't know if I'm making myself quite clear here, but I know what I mean to say.
Well, I'm understanding what you're saying, but I've never heard of anybody who has had their mind taken over by some mysterious cult. I know there are people who have joined cults, and you could say they've been brainwashed after joining. There have been a number of occasions when that's been done, but brainwashing isn't an electronic process, generally.
No, that I didn't mean it like that. It was like but I found it quite disturbing, because I have read somewhere along the lines in the paper about these sorts of these cults or whatever they are, and I think it's a shame that people nowadays have to rely on phones and other devices, where at one time it was all you had to write a letter or, have a conversation face to face with people. And I find it's very sad that people can't do that now. It's like...
Well, indeed, I'm a firm believer in, wherever possible, meet people face to face rather than phone them up or send them a text. Dear God, I can do without that. But that's just the way it is. It used to be that if you wanted to send somebody a letter, you needed a piece of bark from a tree, and you needed a quill, and you needed some octopus blood. And we've moved on from there by quite a distance. So the process by which we communicate is less important than the fact that we do, surely.
Well, yeah, it is. But I still find it very, very sad that we are controlled by phones, computers, call me old-fashioned, whatever. But I do find it very, very nice to get the odd letter through the post.
We're not controlled by them any more than we're controlled by motor cars. Computers are tools. Telephones are tools, and we choose to use them. Now, you're not controlled by it, but many people choose to use it. I've never sent a text in my life, and if somebody sends me a text, I delete it without reading it. I have no interest in texts.
No, I haven't either. Because if you can't say something to somebody, then...
Yeah. But it's like people go on holiday and take photographs, and I think, why? If the holiday was crap, fine. But if the holiday was enjoyable, then you'll remember it. You won't need a photograph. I don't want a photograph of a mountain. I'm probably not going to take as good a photograph of the mountain as a professional photographer, and I can remember the mountain, no problem at all. I don't understand it all, but that's the modern world. But it doesn't control us. We choose to do it.
Yeah, but I still think in some ways it does control the younger generation. My grandchildren can't do without the phone.
No, they can't, because it's a useful tool.
Well, this is it. I must be able to think for yourself, but I can't. I need my phone. So to me, that is
but that's the way it goes. I mean, young people do what's current for them. I mean, do you go to the theatre every night, or do you watch telly?
I don't do either. I can't
you don't watch. You don't. No, indeed.
Oh, the other thing no.
Well, do you listen to the radio, or do you go and join societies where you can have a conversation, or do you listen to the radio?
I listen to the radio more or less 24/7.
Why? Is it controlling you, or are you choosing to use it?
No, it don't control me. I feel better for listening to it. And
well, that's what the youngsters say about their phones.
Yeah, I know, but you're not listening to what I'm saying.
Well, you started by talking about a mysterious group that controlled minds, so I sort of had a bit of trouble with that. But what are you saying then?
No, I'm just saying there was a thing in the 70s about these, whether they were men or whether they were women, they took people away. I don't know where they took them, but a lot of people went missing by this cult. Where they took them, what happened to them, nobody seems to know why. That's all I was saying, not that...
Nor do I. As I say, the only Men in Black I've heard of are the ones in the film, and beyond that, I got nothing. Others will tell me. Others will come on and tell me, I'm sure, Kath. Thank you very much. Kath wants to know, are the Men in Black still around, and is she likely to be whisked away into the darkness of their realm? 0800 218 2255. How do Brian?
I do.
Hello, Brian. Right. How do
Hello.
What do you want to talk about, Brian?
Right, I'll just turn down my radio.
Well, this is riveting, isn't it?
Hi
Are you back
there.
yet?
Oh,
Very good.
Right. I've had a broken wrist since 2 o'clock this morning. Well, afternoon, sorry. I tried to ring an ambulance, but we can't send them because it's not classed as emergency. So I got to a point where I'll just ring a taxi, and just go at 11 o'clock. You know what I mean? I don't want, if something's really serious, yeah, I don't mind standing back because it's only a broken wrist. And I'm just trying to help the NHS, and well, yeah, they're all over now. Why can't the government just give them that pay rise?
They can. They choose not to because they think it would be bad for the country.
Yeah, and that's about the what's happening in Ukraine and Russia.
Well, it's about all sorts of things, but the government
It's
thinks
about
that...
everything.
Indeed, that's what I was saying. The government thinks that it would be wrong to give ambulance personnel, nurses and the like, although apparently there's a new batch of negotiations with the nurses and the government, between the nurses and the government. But the answer to your question, why can't the government give them what they want? Well, because the government believes to do so would be wrong. It would be bad for our economy.
So why should our government send billions to the war when they can't even sort out their own country?
Well, I didn't know what you said then. You
own
said
country before you sort out anybody else's problems.
Well, they, in a way, believe that if Russia conquered Ukraine, that could be a problem for the United Kingdom. Could be. I'm saying it will be, but they're saying it could be. So,
Ukraine is UN. United Nations.
Well, the government, our government isn't sending weapons to Ukraine because they're a member of the...
We've never been in the UN, have we?
We are in the UN. We're one of the lead countries in the UN. We're on the United Nations Security Council.
Oh, are we? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, we are.
Right, but I think they should just sort it out.
When you say, I think they should just sort it out, that's easy to say.
Should just sort it out. And
what does that mean? I'm trying to find out what you mean by...
country wants to fight. It's not our war.
Well, okay. When you say...
we would do something different. And why are we sending tanks over? Because it's the UN.
No, it's nothing to do with the UN. It's because our country, our government, believes that Ukraine is, for want of a better expression, a test. If Putin is allowed to take over...
Yeah, I understand that.
How can you? It was only half a sentence.
Well, it's only been right, but I didn't say he was going up more prior to the kicking off a year ago.
Okay.
A year ago, I think it was a day or yesterday.
Right. And again, to try and answer your question, but I'm prepared to stop. You asked, why does our government send weapons to Ukraine? The answer is because they believe the reason our government sends weapons to Ukraine is because our government believes that in the long run.
In the long run.
You knew the answer. You knew, and it's okay.
Yes.
You have your answer. I was going to give you the government's declared answer, but you have yours, and you seem very comfortable with that.
No, that's all I was phoning up for.
Okay, well, thank you. How do Tony?
Well, are you okay?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. Couple of light-hearted things on Wales at the moment, before I get to my serious point. They were beaten today by England at rugby.
Correct.
When you put the news on the BBC, the bottom bar that goes across the screen says, Wales were beaten by England.
Well, there you go. That's terrible. What's the BBC coming to, eh?
That's you've got my point there. It could be they lost or beaten. Let's get it right. Or unless it's Welsh and English language, I don't know.
No, that was an attempt at English, a failed attempt, but an attempt at it nonetheless.
I've seen it many a time. It's just that one last letter.
Right.
Beaten.
Right.
Right. Second point, bit of an earthquake in Wales this week.
Yeah, in the Cardiff area, apparently.
Epicentre was nothing to do with you and your missus, is it?
My missus has nothing to do with you.
Okay. Can I get on to my last point then?
By all means.
I've had one night in my hospital in my life, and my wife's had two. She was taken in on Friday. Can I mention the hospital?
Not really, but go on with your tale.
I'm just going to say what a great service it is. The NHS. She was no queuing, there was no ambulance queues. She was straight in, straight on the triage and straight into the ward.
Good.
Then she's getting looked after like 4 meals a day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner and supper. I want to get my suitcase and go and move in with her.
Well, ask
it's like
them
a 5-star hotel.
I've heard lots about the NHS. I've never heard it being described as similar to a 5-star hotel.
Well, that's what they call it. The patients, when you walk in, when somebody gets wheeled in, said, welcome to the 5-star, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Unless you want to be in the hospital, I'll leave that there.
Sorry, I don't know that.
Alexa, shut up.
Goodbye.
Right.
Hear that, Alan? Alexa, kick it.
See you, thank you very much. 0800 218 2255. There you are. That was the Men in Black, if Kath's listening. How do Cody? Hello, Cody.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. It's basically just to talk about what the whole nation's talking about. A lot of speculation around the Nicola Bulley case. Yeah, so there was a lot of speculation about like the sewer man on TikTok.
The woman disappeared. Her body has now been found. I'm not altogether sure that I want to hear any speculation.
Yeah, no, it's not really about the speculation. It's basically just about so on TikTok, a man, 34-year-old.
I have no... Cody, stop. I have no desire to discuss anything that's on TikTok. It's a clown's emporium, and I have no desire to join it. I'll do Brian.
I don't know. I want to follow a clown's emporium. I've got 3 quick questions for you, Alan.
Okay.
2 fun ones and a serious one. The first of the fun one is, you mentioned on tonight's shows, lethal injections has been mentioned, and visual impairment. The first question is, why do they sterilise the needle when they're administering a lethal injection?
A what injection?
Lethal injection.
I didn't know they did, but the needles come ready sterilised in sealed packs these days.
Okay. And the second question is, have you ever seen a blind man cross the road trying to get to the other side? Is the opening line in which song?
Oh, I used to know that. But now don't.
Okay, perhaps one of the audience will help us. My serious question is, I have a friend who has a dilemma, who's very much in love with his partner, but because of the menopause, it's put her off for intimacy. And she said to him, you know, if you want to go and find someone else, you can do, but he doesn't want to do that. Would you have any advice for him?
No.
Okay.
Just don't tell Brian things.
All right. I didn't mention any names.
No, it's you. I'm saying he shouldn't be telling you about his private life.
All right, okay.
Because you're going to spread it around on the radio. So you're an unreliable friend.
How very dare you? I haven't mentioned any names.
Brian, I just go on the facts. And you, I'm afraid, have just blabbermouthed a story about your friend, and he may be listening, she may be listening, recognise your voice and think, that foul-mouthed, fat-mouthed fool. Get him off. I don't want him as a friend anymore, because his mouth goes whap, whap, whap. So, good night. How do Ricky?
Good evening, Mr. Beswick. How are you doing?
Good evening. I'm doing very well.
I wish I could say the same. That check's still not bounced, that check. That's another matter. 2 quick views to be opinionated. Dog owners. Not too keen on dogs, although I did have one as a family pet. That's a bit contradictory. You take a dog for a walk, as you do, and some owners don't pick up what they eat, which I find disgusting. If you can't own a dog, don't pick up the mess, then don't have a dog. Simple as. Because other people check it and it goes in the house, or a child could, do something and rubbish that, you see this and I think it's just a mess. It's supposed to put it in the bag and put it in the bin. It's not rocket science, is it?
Okay.
No, I mean, point taken, that's what it says. Put you in the bin, rubbish or they're in the bin, Otherwise, I can't see why people can't see the bin or they just leave things, or they sling it to one side and go, it's dog doo-doo, put it in the bin. Because we put the rubbish in the bin, as we do, girls. Some people don't. It's just, this is unacceptable as well. As human beings, we should put stuff in the bin. In certain places you get fined, don't you?
Okay, so we've got that. What else did you want to say?
Yeah, well, that was nipped in the bud, didn't I? The second one is noisy neighbours. We can't get rid of them, but there should be some sort of legalisation where, enough's enough. I mean, you're allowed to make certain noise during the day, but talk about, when you try to sleep, or if you're poorly, or you're working and you've got noisy neighbours doing something at stupid o'clock in the morning, I think, hoovering up, or the dogs are barking when they shouldn't be, or you've got somebody doing DIY, or banging doors, or shouting, where's the law saying you should be doing this after a certain time? Because you pay your dues and you say, right, you should be able to do this. You're supposed to record things, but, just be a place where, a person could come around and record it and say, right, here's more of this, and you could get evicted. that's stopped. Why? Why?
Well, that's not stopped. People are required, if they're complaining about noisy neighbours, to first of all establish to the satisfaction of the arbiter that the neighbour has been noisy, because often the arbiter goes round and says, your neighbour's complained about noise, and they say, what noise? And so can't go any further, can they, unless they've got some evidence of that noise. So there's a whole process that has to be gone through.
Well, some people don't want to, as you call it, snitch, but saying, it depends on what they're doing. In our place, you're not supposed to smoke. But I've seen cigarette butts, and I'm going, I'm not getting involved with this situation. There's no CCTV. They're not supposed to be specifically doing in a communal area.
I was merely addressing the point that you seem to say that noisy neighbours should be evicted, and maybe they should.
Well, it depends what they're doing, Mr. Beswick. Depends what they're doing. I mean, it's breaking the rules.
But if they are going to be evicted for being noisy, one first of all has to establish that they have been noisy. Because just imagine if you didn't like your neighbour, you could just say, he's been really noisy at 3 o'clock in the morning, 5 days this week. And they come along and say, hey, you, out, you're evicted for being noisy. He's not been noisy at all, but no one's provided any evidence, but you've made the complaint. So they have to establish, first of all, that the allegation is true.
Well, like I say, sometimes but it obviously not just saying, where's the job?
Well, enough may well be enough, but first of all, we have to establish that it is enough.
Yeah, it's like say, people play loud music. What time does that stop?
And what if they say, I haven't been?
Well, they have, because someone's heard it.
No.
Someone's heard it.
What if they say, I haven't been?
Well,
and somebody say, yes, you have, I heard. Yes, you have, I heard it. Well, so you've made the allegation, but unfortunately that's not enough. A person has made the allegation, so the person says that never happened.
Well, they would say that. They would say that.
Well, they would say they would say that if they hadn't been.
Okay, Mr. Beswick, thank you very much.
My pleasure. I'll do Balad.
Good evening, Mr. Emmett. Hold on. Turn me radio off? Okay, I'll turn it down.
Off.
Okay, I'll turn it down. Yeah, Mr. Emmett, two things.
Turn it off.
Turn it off, okay. Okay, it's done. Right, okay. Two things. I'll go with the first one. First of all, did that earthquake in Wales, did you feel it?
No.
Okay. Well, that's that one done. Have you seen this thing with the banks? Over here where I live, basically, where I volunteered, there were about, say, 5 banks. In fact, I used to call that corner 4 banks corner, because at every corner at that intersection, there used to be at least there were 4 banks on those corners, plus there were some others as well. But now there's only 2 banks left, and out of those 2 banks, one is closing in April. So that's that. Then the other thing was that I heard, I think I read it, that the Bank of England, at some point, we're going to get, what do you call it, cashless, e-credit. So basically, you're not going to be on your accounts anymore. You're going to have some form of e-credit. And the way why I believe is that the ATM near me, basically, is no longer working. And I heard it from other countries. They said in Nigeria, this is how it went out in Nigeria. They said at some point in time, they were changing their money. So certain people couldn't get their money. But now what other people did, they now got something called a POS, which is like a ATM machine. So they say, oh, I want to sell you this. And they say, okay, I'm buying that for about, say, let's say 1,000 naira, and you put it in there. Guys, hey, the deal's done. then he could go down the road and say, "Oh, I want to buy some food." Oh, I can only pay you through this, and that person's got the same thing. They do it. It's been done. They're saying it's a worldwide electric money because they want to discourage banknotes and all that. And in Nigeria, they were saying that they had 3 billion naira in circulation, which was not in control of the bank. That's why they would change their money. Anyway, that thing went pear-shaped big time. And other countries were doing it. Because I watched the program last week where they said all these people in these countries were having problems with their banks. And it was a big issue. That's that. Second thing I had to talk about was this. So-called said Nigeria. I've not talked about Nigeria sometimes. Today, Nigeria is having, or they had, because it's late now, they had an election for the presidency. And over the weeks, I had been apprehensive that we didn't know what was going to go on, because if you might have been hearing, they had insurgencies, Boko Haram, AK-45 jihadists and all that, and people have been displaced from their lands big time. And somebody actually said that if Nigeria becomes a failed state totally, there will be about, say, 20 million refugees trying to get out of there. And they're coming all over the world. Because basically, already they want to get out. You might be hearing of cases of people coming from Nigeria. Some of them are skilled people. I mean, the most one is that some doctors that are trained there have come here to work. Now, the British government as well said, to Nigeria, anybody, that was actually anybody, I think, that if you want to come to England and train as a teacher, you can come. So people are leaving Nigeria in Johnson Phillip because they can't work in Nigeria. But with this election now taking place being peacefully, we still don't know what trajectory Nigeria is going to be going on. Because if tomorrow say, the election now, basically, that candidate won, and somebody says, no, that's it, we don't want that, blah. We don't know. It could be bedlam. But at the moment, it seems to be holding.
Right.
Yeah. And I might have, when I might have told you back in the day that you say Britain's got a lot to lose or gain with the whole situation, because Britain was the country that put Nigeria together back in 1914, and a funny incident happened at independence, whereby there was a certain mock battle fought with the forces of the Sokoto Caliphate, not Nigerian forces. The outcome of that battle was not in doubt, and it said the Sokoto Caliphate forces cut back the flag of the Sokoto Caliphate. Now, they believe that since that day of that in 1960, Nigeria was given to them, and it's for there to do whatever they like.
Balad, I'm sure many people, well, at least two, are fascinated by the history of Balad and its current election, and of Nigeria and its current election, and its currency issues and the like. But it's a small minority of the people listening to this program give them monkeys either way, to be honest.
Yeah, but the only thing I was really worried about is the banking scenario, because it's also gone down in America. It's played out in America already. Certain people call their customer service and they can't get through, and they say, we don't have your money. So it's already starting to hit. I mean, I went to my ATM. You can't get money out of that ATM. My bank that's supposed to be near me, it's not near me anymore. It's about 5 miles away. So that's happening.
The reason the reason the branches are closing is because fewer and fewer people use them, because the banks have quite cleverly taught thousands and thousands of people to bank online, and so you don't need a branch for that.
But some people, I mean, older people, even sometimes me, I mean...
Yes, but you see, but Balad, the banks don't care about that. The banks care about how much money they make. And so if they can get us all to stop making them employ 15 people to work in a little office at the end of their street, the banks are quite happy with that. And if it means some old codger has trouble getting his or her pension, well, who cares, as long as we make a profit? That's what banks are about, the private businesses,
I know what
with
you're
the
saying,
sole purpose of making money.
Because people use it, they say, oh, use the app or go online. But those apps, to some people, I mean, they're a nightmare. You can't use them. You see, you've done that, or you put it in.
Well, the bank don't really care about that. If somebody says, oh, I can't use one of those, they'll just think, well, eventually they'll go, and then they won't cost us a penny. So that's fine.
But it's not fair.
Fair? If you find me something that's fair, ring me up and tell me, and I'll point out how wrong you are. How do, Linda? How do, Linda? Hello, Linda. She didn't linger, did Linda? How do, Linda?
Sorry, Alan. Sorry.
Don't be sorry. What would you like to talk about?
A couple of things. First of all, about dogs.
Okay.
It's the responsibility is the owner. The dog can't pick up their own da-da-da.
That is true.
Yeah. Do you know what? I've taken my dog out, and it might have had a bit of a diarrhea, and I've walked home, and I've walked back. I've got with a bottle of water and a brush, and I've cleaned it up, because the dog can't do it. It's not the dog's fault. They can't pull the chain.
That's true.
Right, okay. The other thing was, the reason I rang you, Alan, so what would you say about what I've just said to you?
I agree, the dog can't flush the chain. It is about the owners. That's why we don't find the dog when they're found. They find the owner.
I know, but do you know what, though, Alan? You see all these signs up about a fine, this, that and the other.
Yeah, but they're not for the dogs, because dogs can't read.
I know that, but what I'm saying is...
Those signs are for the owners.
But does the owners ever get fined?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Have you ever known anyone?
Have I personally known them? No.
Right.
Have I read about their cases? Yes.
Oh, well, I've not, but anyway.
Well, you didn't ask you asked me.
Shut up. Anyway, what I'm saying to you, what I'm ringing about, my mum used to have a motor scooter, and she used to think that she could just, like, park anywhere she wanted. I can't think now. I've lost me.
Train of thought?
I know. I'm sorry, Alan.
Okay, don't worry.
She used to think she could just, like, park anywhere she wanted, whether it was 2 or 3 foot from the curb or whatever.
And
or
what? When
she used to, like... Go on.
Did that ever go wrong for her, this crazy belief?
Yes, she say, like, the lights were on red, green or amber.
Well, they're always on one of those.
she used to go, whatever.
Sometimes 2.
And then she'd go like that, thank you, and all the cars would like screech to the end, thank you. She used to think she could just go whatever colour they were, and that's
often that leads to their death, especially if they're on a scooter.
Yeah, she's got thank you. Anyway, I'm sorry, Alan.
It's all right, don't worry, fascinating.
Okay, I'll speak to you soon.
All right, I shall look forward to it. Have a good night, Linda. How do Fred?
Hello, lad. How's the fettling?
Awfully well, thank you.
Aye. Well, down at Fettler's Arms, we've got a number of people who think they can predict the future. You see, and
right.
we've been having a bit of a game down at the Fettler's Arms, and I said it will be Italy 14, Ireland 34, and it turned out to be Italy 20, Ireland 34. Sorry, 20. Hang on. And I predicted that it would be Wales 10 and England 20, and I got that one right.
Well done.
But League One's...
When you say predicted, do you really mean guessed?
Guessed. Prediction is the guess. You see, Nostradamus was supposed to have predicted all kinds of things, and some people said he got some of those things right, but nobody can entirely predict the future. I mean, I know tomorrow...
Or even any of it.
Well, I know tomorrow I will get up in the morning or the afternoon, or...
Well, you don't know. You might not get up at all. You might be dead.
Well, I hope not. Well,
I know. I could have predicted that you hope not, but you're telling me that you will awaken tomorrow, and I'm saying you don't know, you're just hoping.
No, I can predict tomorrow I'll be getting up and put my trousers on.
No, you can predict anything you wish, but what you can't do is say it will happen until it's happened, and then you're not predicting, you're reporting.
Well, that's as maybe, lad. There's a lot of things that we don't know. I mean, the future is something...
I'm sure in your case there are millions and millions of things you don't know.
Well, there are millions and millions of things that many people don't know, and I wouldn't claim to have a monopoly on wisdom at all.
No,
there's a lot.
Probably just as well.
Aye, happens maybe. Anyway, you get these prophets of doom and gloom. It says the world's going to end tomorrow. Well, it won't end tomorrow. Of course, it won't end.
Well,
tomorrow.
It will. It will.
It?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, because it won't end today. But of course, if you predict the world ends tomorrow, today being Saturday, if you predict the world ends tomorrow, and tomorrow is Sunday, you get to tomorrow, and then you say, well, I thought the world was going to end tomorrow. You say, it is. Well, why isn't it ended? Because this is today.
Hey, by gum. Yeah, well, I mean, tomorrow's another day, isn't it?
Indeed, one that we never reach.
And this next week is another week, and the week after that will be another week, and the week after that, and the year after this, and in 10,000 years...
ad nauseum, yeah.
10,000 years' time, the world
assuming
will still be...
Assuming, of course, the world hasn't ended before then.
No, the planets will still be going around the sun. The question
assuming.
is...
No, you're just assuming that. You can't predict it for sure.
Yeah, but who could have predicted Putin would invade Ukraine? I mean...
Quite a lot of people did. Quite a lot of people did predict it.
And they were right, weren't they? But not everybody can be right. I mean, down in Fettler's Arms, lad...
If everybody's right, there isn't any wrong.
Yeah, but if we could all predict everything, we'd all be able to win the lottery, and we'd all be millionaires.
But it wouldn't be any... No, we wouldn't, because if we all win it, we just get our quid back.
Ah, that's one way of looking at it, I suppose.
No, that's the arithmetical way of looking at it.
But what I was trying to say is you know, I was predicting results from League One, and I predicted Bolton.
League One of what?
League One of the league, the football league. And,
football. Okay, that's all right. I was trying to find what you were talking about.
And I predicted Bolton would win 3-1, and they only won 2-1. And I predicted Burton would draw with Accrington 1-1, and it was a 0-0 draw. You see, my
dad used to work in Burton Wood.
Oh, aye, Burton Wood, or are we talking about Burton where they brew the beer? Because it's Burton Wood. Burton Wood, which is in Lancashire.
Yeah, well, you said you predicted Burton Wood, and I just said my dad worked in Burton Wood.
Where I was talking about Burton Albion, lad, where they brew the beer.
Well, you didn't say that. You said I can't do anything about that. You said Burton Wood, and I thought, oh, Burton Wood. My dad used to work there. Had you said Burton Albion, I would not have interjected at all, because he didn't work at Burton Albion, as far as I'm aware.
Well, it was
But he did work at Burton Wood.
It was a level of imprecise information, weren't it? I mean, I should have got him.
No, he definitely did work at Burton Wood.
But I predicted that Peterborough would. It
Who's
would
he?
be Peterborough 1, Plymouth 3, and it was Peterborough 5, Plymouth 2. So I got that one wrong as well.
So it would seem.
So I'm not a very good predictor of the future.
No.
But I do know tomorrow I will get out of bed and put my trousers on.
You don't know. That is your guess. That is your presumption.
Well, I think I will do. You know, I think on the basis...
Whoa. I'm perfectly comfortable with you thinking you will. Indeed, I said that to you. It was when you said you will. And I said, well, you can't be absolutely certain. And you said, I know I will. And I said, no, you don't. You think you will.
Well, on basis of probability. See, I work on probability.
That's not a prediction. That's a arithmetical deduction.
It's a way of working out. You know, I mean, if you plan
it's a way of influencing your guess.
Well, we all have to make plans for the future, and tomorrow's another day. We all know that. Tomorrow is another day. I mean, even if I drop dead tonight, you'll still be on the phone tomorrow evening.
Unless I also drop dead.
Well, you won't, will you? Because on the basis
I have no idea.
On the basis
of probabilities, no. But somebody will be dead tomorrow. Around the world, there'll be 250,000 people dead tomorrow. So, you know, somebody's got to be amongst that number.
Well, I mean, it's a random thing. It's like winning the lottery.
Which is why I keep pointing out every time you say this will happen, I point out to you that you can't know that, because if I may quote somebody, I don't remember his name, it might have been Fred, it's a random thing. Don't have a good night. How do, Tom?
Good evening, Alan. How are we doing?
Good evening, Tom. I'm doing fine, thank you.
Good. A few things I wanted to have a chat about. But firstly, oh my gosh, I'm absolutely gutted to hear of the departure of Ken Bruce. What a shame. I mean, I don't know the background, what's gone on and whatnot. I'm not interested. But, yeah, what a loss. But I hope he does well in his future engagements. But, I think I was on, last time I was on, I came on after that Settlers Arms guy. He was on last before me. From Accrington, I believe, strangely. But I wanted to ask about tax returns. So, I mean, I'm clueless when it comes to stuff like this. I think it's tax returns, but basically with my job, I get parking expenses. The company will pay for it, and like other expenses I might pay for if I've got to get milk for the office, you know, and things like that, or sundries and whatnot. So I pay tax on them when I claim that back. which apparently I shouldn't do, which is right, really. If I spend £10 for milk for everybody, and then I submit that to my expenses, I get about £8.90 that back or something, how it works out, over the end or whatever. So, I do get it in that sense. But for me parking, and I mean, I've got all the receipts. Does it have to be done something like that before the end of April or something? At the end of March, before the new financial year? Or what do I need to do?
It isn't normal for if your company provides you with free parking, that is sometimes regarded as a benefit, and benefits are taxable. But have you got your tax return?
Well, no, I don't know. I don't even know what a tax return is. No, it's if
your tax form.
It's on it's like a contracting basis. So as part of that contract, I'm required to be on site.
No. I'm talking about you. You're asking about tax. That's nothing to do with your contract. Tax is the rules that govern how much of your money you can keep and how much you've got to give to the government. That's nothing to do with your contract as such. So.
No, you were saying about providing parking. It's not the parking, so I'll use like an NCP or something like that, or whatever private car park can find.
But does your employer? Just excuse me a second. Does your employer then give you the money?
So I upload the receipt, and that goes as part of my wage. But I'll get then taxed after that.
Hang on. When you say it goes as part of your wage, are you telling me that when you
said my wage was £1,000 at the end before tax, and said my parking was £5, so I get £1,000 for my wage, then £1,005 altogether I'll get paid, then I'll get tax then. So that £5.
Let me ask you a question first. Does your employer pay you as a result of you submitting your parking charges? Yes or no?
Yes.
Right. Then, as far as I understand it, and I am not an accountant, but as far as I understand it, that is regarded as a benefit. It's regarded as part of your pay as far as the taxman's concerned, and is thus taxable.
Is it not tax relief, though? Because I'm sure on the .gov website it said you do not have to pay tax on expenses incurred, such as you commute to and from work and parking.
I have to challenge that. I'm not altogether sure that the government website does say that you don't have to pay tax on your travel expenses to work.
Yeah, I should have had it up really. There is an exemption from tax and NIC where an employer provides or reimburses. Yeah, I should have had this up really.
You should. I think, Tom, the best thing to do is to read it again rather than have me guessing. Read it again, right. Because as far as I understand it, if your employer recompenses you for your travel to work costs, that in most circumstances would be regarded as income. It depends on the kind of work you do, but in essence that would be regarded as expenses. As taxable payment rather than legitimate expenses. But check with the website. All right. Good on you, Tom. Yeah. Have a good night. We're going to talk to Chris, to Ricky, to Glenn, to Phillip, and to you. The number's 0800 218 2255. If only this was true. For your travel costs are tax-free, for better expression, because it depends on the job. For example, if your job requires that you travel around in your vehicle making calls, for example, if you were a care worker going to various different premises, then I believe the money given to you to enable you to do that is not taxable. The bit that is taxable is just your commute to work, and he did say commute at one point. So if it's just your commute to work, so you go from home to your workplace, that, as far as I'm aware, is taxable. But if you're going to various other places, so you've got to go and see somebody at number 92 and then somebody at 16 on the other side of town, then you're travelling on your employer's behalf rather than just going to work. So that's where it gets different. So there we are. 0800 218 2255. How did Chris?
Evening, Alan. I've followed your show for an awful long time, close on to 40 years. I've always found you insightful and intelligent, but I've had to phone you up because I think you're wrong on something you said about 40 minutes ago. And that last song, lovely as it is, was part of the reason why I said you. And there's a line in that, echoes of my mind. And you said, I don't see the point in holiday photographs. What's the point in that mountain, etc. Now, I'm sure that you've obviously got family, and I'm sure you've obviously got parents. And I'm sure at some point, especially after your parents passed away, you must have looked at photographs of your parents, probably on holiday, because me and you, probably, our families only had cameras to use when we were on our holidays. You remember those little slim ones, those A10s and the Kodak cameras, and we saved up and we bought them as kids, and we took them on holiday. We took pictures of our grandparents and our aunties. And my dad passed away about 8 years ago, and he had dementia. Before he passed away, the last couple of years, there was nothing nicer than showing him some photographs of his dad, and the tears in his eyes, looking at his dad at my kitchen table, showing him the photographs of they're all on holiday. But your comment there, you're not always wrong. You were wrong there about there's no point in holiday photographs.
You have to. First of all, you started. I'm sure you said you've looked at photographs since your parents died. I haven't.
Well,
why would I? I know what they look like.
Thing, that, Alan. That's a sad
it's only sad for you. It's not sad for me.
No, it's sad for you. Not to. You say you can remember things in your mind. That's what you said. You don't need photographs. You can remember things.
There's nowhere else to remember things.
Well, there is. There's a photograph of seeing somebody that you know, like people sat at a table and having a good time and things like that. Your comment. I think you're trying to.
I have absolutely no interest in it.
You've no interest in your family at all, then, Alan.
That's not what I said. But you're entitled. No, I don't have any interest in looking at photographs of them when they were alive, obviously.
Why?
After they've died. I don't have to have a reason. It doesn't.
No, that's fair enough. You don't, but it comes across then
so
that you're
I wasn't wrong then. Well, I don't mind if somebody thinks I'm uncaring because I don't operate my cares in the same way as they do. I really don't care about that. To use care again, I live my life my way. I have no desire for others to choose my way of life, but I'm perfectly happy with mine.
Oh, well, that's fair enough, Alan. Did you not like your parents or your family?
I like them dearly if it's any business of yours, but I don't like them any less.
You're on the radio and you made a comment that for a lot of people who saying... Chris, just let me finish, just for a second, Alan, please.
Well, let me finish first. You asked me a blessed question. I'm trying to give the answer.
Oh, don't lose your temper, Alan. Please.
Well, shut up then and hear the answer.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alan.
You don't need to be sorry, just be quiet for a moment. I don't have any desire to look at photographs of my late parents when they were alive. To then come back to me with the question, did I not care about my parents? Quite frankly, that in truth is none of your business, but in response to it anyway, I cared about them a great deal. I still care about my memories of them, but they're no less dead.
Would your memories not be filled in better with those pictures, do you not think?
I'm doing fine with them without.
But do you not think then that other people on the show that saying there's no point in pictures, because not everybody has your view then, that's fair to say.
I'm giving my view. I'm giving my view. I'm not a spokesperson for mankind.
You're open to a large audience to say then don't take pictures and then later on in life.
No, I didn't say don't take them.
With these cameras, you see, these mobile phones with cameras on them, and nobody ever sort of prints them off anymore, and that's the issue with that I sort of think, like my nephews and nieces and such like, they'll never have pictures to look on in the future. Now, I agree.
Would you,
you don't like
Chris?
that. That's fair enough.
So would you?
Oh, sorry.
Would you in the future say to your nephews and nieces who haven't downloaded their photographs and print them, would you actually have the impudence to say to them, "Don't you love your parents"?
Well, we've had this conversation about not that particular question, but about downloading the pictures and things, and they started to do that and take prints and things like that. But my comment to you, I agree, was insensitive, and I apologise, Alan.
You don't need to. It doesn't matter. I sit in this chair without any worries about people's insensitivity.
My comment really about all those people out there with mental health
I have
conditions.
one view, you have another. I have one view, you have another.
I know, but you're out to an audience of a lot of people, and a lot of people who listen into your programme. Do take your advice.
And do you think, Chris, do you think they listen in because I give them a collective view and say, "Oh, I wouldn't do that," or do you think they listen because I say it exactly as it is, as I see it? Is that why they listen? Do you think it's a possibility?
Possibly, but there's also a great deal of people who do take your advice on score.
Well, they must be daft.
Yes, but whether they are or not, that's an awful thing to say, because somebody who's daft maybe they may not be as bright as you, maybe, I don't know. But
most people I meet are brighter than me, but quite frankly, people who take advice off some gobby little guy on the radio, it's up to them, it's their privilege.
As I started off to say, I've always thought you were insightful and intelligent. I've always thought that. Since I was sort of 18, when I first listened to you on Red Rose, I've always thought that. But my view has possibly changed. I'm sorry, Alan. Look, have a good evening, Alan.
Chris,
love you to bits.
I'll do my best, and if I start to worry about your opinion of me, do come back on and correct me, because quite frankly, I don't give a stuff.
You're quite right.
I'll do Ricky. I'll do Ricky. I'll do Ricky.
He's not there.
Right, well, goodbye then. I'll do Glenn.
Hello.
Hello, Glenn.
This war with Putin and Russia does not seem to be no end in sight, this war, does it?
It doesn't seem to be what, Glenn?
Any end in sight, end of the war.
There doesn't appear to be an immediate end available now.
You said before, Alan, you don't think Putin will use nuclear weapons. What will stop him?
The fact that if he does, the West will retaliate with nuclear weapons, and he will end up with a very much damaged country.
Right. So, it seems to be overrun every country in the world by threatening to use new weapons, yeah? Is China backing Russia up?
Not precisely, no.
Well, on the news, I heard him talking to him on the news. They're in talks with China and Russia. Is that right? I might be saying things.
They are having talks. As it stands presently, as I understand it, China has not backed Russia, but nor has it condemned Russia. And Russia now, I am led to believe, are attempting to get the Chinese to sell weapons or even give weapons to them. Whether the Chinese will or not, I don't know.
Has Putin got cancer? He's got cancer, right?
There was a rumour that he's got cancer. It was a rumour. I don't know whether it is true or not. No idea.
And what will happen if Putin dies?
Someone will replace him.
Right. So will the war carry on?
I don't know. It depends who replaces him.
Right. So if they take over Ukraine, will Russia carry on going to another country? What countries around Ukraine that they could attack Russian troops?
There are lots of countries around Ukraine, one of which is Poland.
Is that a NATO country?
Poland is a NATO country, yes.
So, if he attacks, is it Poland?
if he did attack Poland, yes.
we are automatically at war with Russia, is that right?
Automatically probably overstates it, but we would be duty bound to join forces and repel him because we're a part of NATO, and NATO says if you attack a country that is a member of NATO, then we will basically we will fight you.
So am I right? Well, I say if he takes out Ukraine, he could move into London. Is that right?
Well, the question you've asked is if he did, could he? If he did, he could. Whether he would or not is another story.
Do you think
at the moment he's fighting a war against a country that is much smaller than his and is basically giving him a bloody nose as a result, and that country is supported by weapons from various Western countries who are members of NATO, but he's not fighting NATO. There are not NATO troops on the ground. There are not NATO weapons being used against him by NATO people. If he crossed a border, if you like, invaded a NATO country, then NATO would come together to fight Russia.
You know, these are nuclear weapons, which are quite frightening things, aren't they?
Frightening.
Who have a final set to let off nuclear weapons? Who will be Putin? Who have a final set if it comes to the day when he's right, I'm going to set off nuclear weapons? Who have a final say in that?
As far as I'm aware, in Russia it would be Putin, because he's a dictator. But
so
whether
he would actually have a final say, would he?
Well, he's the president, so yes.
Good deal.
But whether his generals and others would carry out his order is another story.
So can they overrule Putin?
Well, they can't overrule him in terms of having a meeting and saying, right, we're overruling him, but they can refuse to carry out the order.
What a frightening situation, isn't it? What a frightening situation.
It's a war, of course it's frightening.
Mm-hmm. Do you think one day this war could end in peace, Alan?
All wars end. And all wars end in negotiation of some sort. All wars end. And so, yes, one day it will end.
I hope so. I'll have a good night.
So do I. Have a good night. How do Phillip?
Even Alan. It's just no firms send mail shots to you, and the person sent it to doesn't live there anymore, and you write back on the envelope, no longer at this address, and you send it back wherever in the post. And a few weeks later, you get another one, and then another one. I think firms should be fined for not adjusting their databases. That would save like all the paper it would save, etc., and all that. I think.
What sort of mail is it that you're getting?
Well, not me in particular, just people generally, because. Did they get mail? And they're like just junk mail, and they're like, and you write in the back.
Well, there is a process by which you can tell companies not to send you junk mail to an address, whether it's for a previous tenant or you.
And people are still getting it.
Well, I was going to tell
notice type of thing, you know.
They are unlikely to take notice of somebody writing on an envelope no longer at this address. They will not see it. It won't arrive at them. So the way to stop,
because it goes back to like a PO box number where they send it back to. But it's if you get the impression they aren't taking any notice of them when it goes back to that PO box number.
If you give me a minute, I'll explain to you how you stop. It's okay. How you stop junk mail, and you register the address with an organisation known as the Mail preference service. And any company that sends out junk mail, as we would call it, they wouldn't call it that, but unsolicited mail, any firm that does that has to frequently check the mail preference register to see whether the address they're sending the mail to is on it or not. And if the address is on the mail preference service register and the junk mail company still sends letters out, then they can be fined. And the fines...
They do get fined, yeah.
They do. But only if they've been informed formally that that address does not want their mail. And that formal process is the mail preference service.
All right, because I don't think sometimes that doesn't happen, even though people do all that.
Well,
some people.
If that is the case, if a company is on, if an address is on the mail preference service, and the mail continues to come, then you can get in touch with the mail preference service, and they will take action against the company that's sending it, unless that mail is coming from abroad, from outside the country, because we can't control what goes on in foreign lands.
Yeah. It just seems a waste of paper time they're sending them, you know what I mean? Just the paper to be saved and all that type of thing.
Well, it is a waste, but they're not interested in the amount of paper they send out. They're interested in how much it costs to send it out and how much money they get back as a result.
Yeah.
So if they send out 10,000 letters and it costs them, I don't know, £1,000, and they, as a result of those letters, get orders totaling £5,000, it's a bargain. They're £4,000 up.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's, the best thing to do with unsolicited mail is for none of us anywhere, unsolicited mail, people that stop you in the street, anybody, say no. And eventually they'll stop doing it because it's not paying. But unfortunately it doesn't work that way. But if you want to stop unsolicited mail, that's how you do it, the mail preference service.
Because I know people just throw them in the bin, but some people they keep getting them, and all that. So.
Well, yeah, they will. If you throw them in the bin, you will keep getting them, because the company will keep sending them, because they don't think, I won't bother with that, because he's never answered. They just keep sending them, because one day you might open it and think, do you know what, I was just thinking of getting double glazing, and this has arrived. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, that's all it was. Just because I didn't know companies get fined, so there is a system. They do get fined.
There is a system, yes. It's not immediate, because obviously they don't check it. They're not required to check it every day, but they do have to check it frequently. And if a company continues to send unsolicited mail to a registered address, as it were, an address on the Mail Preference Service website, then they can be fined.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Years ago, when I did a consumer programme, I used to get reports from the Mail Preference Service about the companies that have been fined, and some of the repeat offenders have been pound thousands and thousands of pounds.
All right. So I didn't know that. They did all that anyway.
Well, glad to have been of service, Phillip.
Okay, mate.
Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. I'll do Tracy.
How do you? Hello, Alan.
Hello, Tracy.
Hello. Oh, that's thrown me, that with Royal Mail, dude. Can you hear this, Al?
I can hear you, yeah.
Can you hear this? I've made myself a tambourine. Out, ring pulls off beer cans. Put them around a wiring. I've got my own tambourine. I'm back at Sally Army, Anyway, the reason I've rang you, White Towers, what are they about,
What
about?
Big
white towers, them big obstructions, these thingies that they're putting up everywhere. Them things that make your ears go pop. What's going on there?
I haven't noticed any white towers that make one's ears go pop.
What?
You what? Are you walking around with your eyes closed? They're everywhere.
Okay,
Then
well,
5G, 6G, towers.
Well, right, so you mean the 5G towers. I didn't know they were white.
They've put 6Gs up. They've
Is
gone
it? I
beyond
didn't know
that. They're linking us all up to something, and they've not asked anybody. They've not told us what they're doing. They've not asked anybody. So what do you think's going on there? Because you know everything, so tell me.
I have no idea what's going on other than the companies who are doing it hoping to make some money.
It'd be like Balad said from Nigeria, isn't it? It's like your ATM. You go there because it's the only place you can get your money, and they've got all your details, and before you know it, your details have been raped. You've got nothing. He's right. We'll be a third world country before you know what's what.
Right.
And
well,
the law on noise, Alan. I'll tell you the law on noise. You can make a noise from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., yeah? Whether it's working, singing, whatever, nobody go, that's the law. And if you make a noise in between, if you can justify it, it's allowed. It's a free world, Joe.
Right.
It's like you on the radio after, isn't it? Alan. What about them white towers? What's going on?
You told me, so I'm no further forward.
Yo, come on. Why are you're so conservative sometimes when we know that you're hardcore? Come on. Alan, what are them white towers about?
I don't know, you've just told me.
Oh. Well, I'll tell you something. You know Victoria, who wants to be a radio presenter? She might be blind, but she can see. Let me tell you, she can see it. She can...
Right. Okay.
It's like... You know that dude that came on earlier? And he said about capital punishment and things. Ridiculous, isn't it? The dark ages. But because... You know the thing about DNA, Alan? It reproduces itself. So...
Does it?
You might catch someone with right DNA, but there'll be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them with the same DNA.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
That's how.
As far as
you can go back and look at
as far as I'm aware, DNA is unique.
Yeah. Yeah. No. DNA stands for reproduction. It reproduces itself. If you look up the thing for the DNA,
DNA doesn't stand for reproduction. It stands for deoxyribonucleic acid,
which means it continually continues. It means it keeps reproducing. That's what that means. So what I'm saying to you is, if it keeps reproducing, how do you think they can tell you that's your inheritance? How can they say to you, oh, that's your grandma, that's your great, or you were married to Hitler and all that shit and all that crap and everything, or you were one of them, you were Roman and all that? How do you know? Because DNA, it's one line. It goes yo-biddy, go-biddy, bo-biddy, bo-bo, yo.
Well, first of all, DNA is not one line, it's two helices, but fear not, Tracy, it's been lovely hearing from you. How do Lewis?
Good evening, Alan, are you alright?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good, I just want to have a little talk about smart motorways. The understanding that I've got of a smart motorway is the number above the carriageway that presents is if you go faster or greater than that number, then you're going to get flashed by a camera, resulting in a speeding ticket, which is all well and good, and it's good to keep people safe and prevent crashes. But when I go to work at 4 o'clock in the morning, them numbers are showing 30 mile an hour to 40 mile an hour when you can clearly see for the full section of the smart motorway that there's no obstruction. So I'm just wondering why at that time in the morning they seem to put put the numbers lower? Is it? Do you think to get more revenue, or is it to test the screens are working? I don't know.
Neither do I, but many people would take the view that it's to get more revenue. But the smart motorway speed limits don't all have cameras operating all the time, getting everybody. They should have. That would make it better, but they don't, as far as I understand it.
And it's just like, ever since they put the smart motorways in, from my view, from when I'm travelling on them, they never seem to make the traffic flow any better. They always seem to make the traffic flow worse, slowing traffic down, making people change lanes.
Well, the trouble is that's weird, isn't it? Because you're saying it makes it worse, but what you don't have, and you can't have, is a comparator. You don't know whether it would have been even worse. They don't. You made the point yourself, putting the restrictions on speed or what have you on an empty motorway is a bit pointless, and we both have a view as to why they might have done that. But when you're driving along, you think the motorway is absolutely bloody crackers. These smart motorway messages are not helping at all. But what you don't know is what the situation would be if they didn't have those messages.
Yeah, it's just on motorways that aren't smart motorways that haven't been the system hasn't been upgraded yet. They just seem to flow much better than the new system. And I don't know whether that's because it hasn't been trialled properly or whether that's just the way it is.
I don't know. I mean, sometimes when I'm driving down south on the M6, I look at it and it's got us all going at 60 miles an hour, and there's no hazard that I can see. And my first thought is, well, why can't they let us go at 70? But if they let us go at 70, believe it or not, that can slow traffic down. So if you can get everybody to drive at a lower speed, but constantly, rather than faster and slower, you don't have the same congestion. Bizarrely though that may seem. But if you're driving along, go on.
Maybe that's just like, some people don't understand that, because I think when people see signs that are 60, 50, they get frustrated, and that makes them drive worse, which then makes people have to brake harder, which is a knock-on effect. So maybe it's down to the people driving other than the system.
Well, one of the things that happens in crowded motorways is if somebody brakes, the repercussions of that fast reduction in speed goes back as much as 100 cars, because the person sees the brake lights come on, puts his brakes on, the person behind him sees the brake lights come on, puts his brake lights on, and they're all reducing speed from the car in front of them, not the original car, but the car in front of them. And you end up with, instead of everybody travelling along at 60, you end up with the front car still doing 60, slams his brakes on, then goes back to 60 again, all the cars behind him, so that 200 cars back, they're doing 30.
Like a knock-on effect.
It's been shown. I mean, before any thought of smart motorways, they demonstrated it over and over again. The collective reduction in speed of one action. It's bizarre, but it's true.
That makes sense why, if there's a crash on one carriageway, the other carriageway gets slowed down. I think they call it rubbernecking. When someone else is looking,
that's the cause there. Sometimes people are just looking, so they slow down because they don't want to carry on. But yeah, I mean, the whole palaver of traffic management is extraordinarily complicated.
Yeah, it's not something we can solve anyway.
I don't think anyone can solve it. It's all these bloody human beings. That's the trouble.
Yeah. Another thing.
Go on.
Another thing.
Your other.
I know you had I know you've heard it a couple of times tonight, but you were talking before about people picking up the dog muck, which I I agree with you. They should get a fine, and that's fair enough. But something I don't agree with, and I don't know the rules on it, is if a horse and the rider and the horse has a bit of muck, why shouldn't the horse rider get off and clean the horse muck up? Is that not
two reasons? Two reasons. The horse manure is not harmful. I mean, I wouldn't have it for tea, but it's not harmful. And when I was a kid, if the milkman's, it was that long ago, if the milkman's horse had a crap, there would sometimes be big rows over who gets the muck. Because gardeners wanted it to put in their compost heaps or to put on their roses or what have you.
Right, so horse muck is better than dog muck then?
By a long way, yes. Because horses are vegetarian and dogs aren't.
So that's what makes the dog muck more dangerous?
Yes.
All right, well, it's been lovely speaking to you, Alan. Thank you very much.
And you, Lewis. Have a good one. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. It's 10 past midnight. We're here till 1 o'clock. Plenty of time. You can talk about absolutely anything, including the various and debatable qualities of dog muck and horse muck. But they used to put it on the rhubarb. There's that old joke, isn't it, about the fella looking over the wall of... I mean, it's a terrible joke, looking over the wall of school. And he says, what are you going to do with that? As the man picks up the horse muck, he said, we're going to put it on the rhubarb. He says, you should come here for school dinners. We have custard on ours. Awful. How do, Maureen?
Hello, I've heard that joke before. Yes,
I should hope you have. It's about 1,000 years old, but go on, Maureen.
Yeah. Yes, if you can tell me if my problem is fraud or not. It's nothing to do with banking. It's to do with the builder that I paid £1,400 to do some chimney pots for me and any slates that were loose. And after 18 months, I found out that he hadn't done them. And so it is... I've had to have them. I've had to pay again, making it like £2,400. And can you call that fraud or not?
You need a Philadelphia lawyer to answer that. It certainly has a smell of fraud. Now, you say he didn't do the work. Does that mean he made no attempt to do the work, or that he did the work in such a way that it was not done properly?
No, it wasn't done at all.
So you paid him 1,400?
Yeah, I didn't know till 18 months later when I had this terrible leak that came down from the chimney. One of them, there's 2 sets on this house.
Well, hang on. The terrible leak doesn't mean he didn't do the work. It might mean he didn't do it properly. So if I give a builder some money to do so, I wouldn't give a builder money to do work until he'd done the work. But if I did, I would see him on the roof. I'd see the ladders. I'd see his van.
I told him, you must ring me when you're coming. My son was very ill in hospital. I said, I need to go every day. Tell me when you're coming to do the roof. Okay. Anyway, he didn't ring me. I went to the hospital, came back, and the man was coming down a ladder at the side of my house with a bucket. And he said, I've done your gutters as well. And I said, oh, thank you very much. Then I paid up. And about 18 months later, I found the rain had come right down the back of my boiler, down the flue.
Right. So it's not a case of he didn't do the work. It's a case of you believe the work wasn't done properly.
So then I phoned my house insurance, because at the time we'd had a lot of rain. And I thought maybe it's storm damage.
Well, I'll get onto your house insurance in a moment. Let's go back. Are you saying that as far as you're concerned, there was somebody there doing some work, and you now believe that they didn't do it, or didn't do it properly?
No, they didn't do it at all.
Well, you don't know that they didn't do it at all.
I did, because when I rang the insurance company, they sent a surveyor out, and he took photographs of the chimney in particular, and they sent me the copies of it and the letter telling me that it wasn't storm damage, it needed repairing because the water had gone into the roof. And I mean, I've still got the letter.
Okay, let us go back now. let us go back to the builder, because do you know where the builder is? Yes, no.
Not at the moment.
So no at the moment.
No.
Did the builder tell you? Did the builder? No, I don't mean. Is he locatable? He's not.
No, I can't find him now. I knew where he used to be, but I just had a woman answering the phone.
Right. Okay.
Can't find him.
Let's go back to the job itself.
Yes.
Did you agree with him what he would do in terms of specific jobs?
Yes.
And what were those jobs?
To repoint both chimney stacks and to see if any slates were loose. And to actually, where the house next door was built onto mine, my sister-in-law's, there's a little, where they've been joined together in the 1920s, there was some of the slates had lifted, and I was a bit worried about that, and I asked him to have a look to see if they were all right, and if anything needed doing, would he do it for me? Right. Yes, and then the flashing also needed putting back in and knocking back.
Now, the problem is that we're talking about work that was done, or not done, 12 months ago. You've got a report from the insurance company saying, no, it is not storm damage, it is lack of decent repair, yeah?
Yes, not repair at all.
You asked the question, was it fraud? It certainly looks like it could be. The trouble is, if you tell the police, I'm not sure how much energy they will put into it. Well, that's a terrible complaint about our police force, if you like, because it was a long time ago, and it could be argued by the builder, I did do it, but it's gone wonky again, because it was not in the best of nick at the time. So it's very difficult. But was it fraud? Depends on whether he took your money for doing nothing or whether he took your money for doing a bad job. If he did a bad job...
it wasn't done at all. So I've had to pay another £1,000 to another company that came to my nephew's house next door. It's being renovated, and he was on the roof. Asked me, do you want yours doing, because he knew it hadn't been done. I said, okay. And so I had to pay another £1,000 for him to do them.
And do you know that he's done it?
Yeah. I was here.
How?
The proper roof.
You were here? You weren't on the
my
roof?
house, and I saw him.
So, you see the point I'm making, you don't know, do you? Because you went on the roof.
Well, does anybody ever know whether anyone does anything on their roof
the problem.
or not?
Well, that's the problem. There are an awful lot of cowboys in the roofing business. Well, they're not in the roof business. They're in the business of ripping people off. And they are rarely caught. Very rarely caught. Now, what you could do is contact the builder that did the work and tell the builder that you have evidence that the work was not carried out at all and that you want your money back.
Well, he's had all this, everything was sent to him, all the paperwork. He was supposed to be in some confederation of some builders, but he actually wasn't on the list. But he stamped his invoices with this thing that he was in it.
And they do. And
he wasn't
it sounds like you've been done by a cowboy. And the only way you'll get... Go on.
Yeah. He's still about. He's still working, and he's still... I don't do the internet, but I have a tablet, so I know that he's there. I have had a lot of help from... it's called Ask Wirral, with letters and talking to him on the phone. A lady is in this area. She's talked to him and
what has he said?
Well, we've got nothing back. This has been going on for 2 or 3 years now.
What has he said?
What has he said?
Yes.
Sorry, he or she?
He. Male.
Oh, he. We didn't say anything.
Builder. I don't know.
Well, he hasn't said anything.
So he's not responded?
No.
He's not responded. Is that correct?
No. I mean, over the years, I have had some other work done by him, which seemed to be okay. But then, I mean, it's just after my husband died, I had another. We had another conservatory put up. The bottom part of the conservatory is fine, but the top part was terrible. The roof was dreadful. So
is this the same man?
Yeah, but this is before this. You know, it was all. Yeah, but he was all. You know, he was all right doing the roof. But the thing was, this the roofing people. I went to the CAB about it, and they said, yes, this is terrible photographs and everything. And he said, we can go to court with this. Then he rang me to say, no, you can't, because he's gone bankrupt and changed the name of the firm and carried on the same.
Then, Maureen, you're done for. You've lost your money, you won't get it. And
yeah,
to prove it was fraud requires a stronger... Fraud is a criminal offence, as you know. And in order for him to be convicted of fraud, he would have to be... People would have to convict him on the basis of beyond reasonable doubt. And his defence, if he ever got there, was, it's not fraud, I intended to do it, I may not have done as good a job as the lady wanted, but I did my best. And that's not fraud. So you're now down to the civil area where you sue him to get your money back. But if he's a company and the company's gone bust,
no, this is
your
another
money's
firm.
gone.
I should have said that was another firm, because that was another firm, but he put a new roof on my conservatory, which is fine, but then...
Maureen, we need to concentrate just on one thing at a time, because another firm, another this, another that. The person who should have done your roof work for 1,400 quid, you appear to have been told by the Citizens Advice Bureau that he, as that company, is no longer trading, correct? Is that correct?
Well, it isn't really, because this was another firm, and he...
No, never mind another firm. The person... Let's stick with this 1,400 quid builder. Now, the CAB says you can't bring an action against him because he's ceased trading, he's gone bankrupt, gone bust. That's what they've said. Am I correct?
Well, not particularly about the firm I'm talking to you about, because it's sort of intertwined.
Just a minute. A few moments ago, I know I'm an idiot, but a few moments ago you said, I went to the CAB. The CAB said, yes, you can sue him, and then the CAB got in touch with him and said, you can't sue him because he's gone bust. Now, whether it was right or not, did you say that? Just yes or no. Did you say that to me?
Roof put on by the same people I'm talking about now that owe me the money for £2,400 now. They put another roof on for me, and they put a glass, big, like a skylight in the top of this conservatory roof. That broke. It splintered. So this was part of the problems of getting him to come back. He got me another piece of glass, and for 14 months it stood against the side of my house. When this man came to do my roofing...
Is this the same firm or the same man? No, don't answer till you've finished the question.
Is it the same?
I know it's called. Just let me ask the question again, and then when you've heard the end of the question, answer that. Is the person who did your conservatory roof the same man as did your house roof? Yes or no?
Yes.
Is the firm... Listen, we've got yes, that's fine. I only need one word. Yes.
Right,
Now, here's another question. Yes or no? Is it the same company as did your roof? Yes or no?
Yes. No.
Then...
The one that fixed it about 2 weeks before Christmas, that's another man. That's the roofer.
Right.
The one I'm dealing with. is the one that owes me all the money. I know it's
not complicated. It's not complicated because when I ask you questions, you give me answers, and then they change. Now, I know that's because you're working on memory, but I asked you if it was the same person that did the roof and the conservatory. And you said...
the roof, you mean? Supposed to have done the roof. The man who's supposed to have done the roof did the conservatory roof. Because I had to have a new roof.
Same man, yes or no?
Yeah, same man.
Right. Now, no more. No, yes, that's enough.
Okay.
So, next question. Now, I don't want any more words than one. And that one word needs to be either yes or no. If it's no, I'll ask you some more questions. But don't give me any more information. Just say yes or no to the question. And here is the question. It was the same man. But was it the same firm? Yes or no?
Yes.
Then, when the Citizen Advice Bureau told you that the firm had gone bankrupt or ceased trading or gone bust or whatever expression they used, why do you think they would do that if the firm is still trading exactly the same?
I don't want you shouting at me. I'm just going to say that the firm that built my conservatory, it was the bottom half was one area that is in St Helens. The top half was another firm. That roof was appalling. It had to come off. The man at the CAB said, we'll take him to court. No, you can't. He's gone bankrupt. So that was the end of that. I had to pay out again. Had another roof by the man who was supposed to have done my chimney pots.
Right.
And in the meantime, the glass, big piece of glass, which is £1,200, smashed to smithereens, actually stayed up. I told them, and he got me another piece of glass, left it around the side of my house, 14 months, two winters. All the cardboard had gone off it, anything that was protecting it. So when the man who came to do my next door neighbour's roof asked me to do mine, he also said, do you want me to put that roof in for you? That big window. And I said, well, I think so, because I don't know when he's ever come back. Even though he had said, I will come back and fix it for you. So I got the man who was the roofer and his son, they put this window back in for me. And I paid him over £1,000. So I paid the original one, $1,400, who didn't do the roof. The one that did the roof and did my window as well, that was £1,000, meaning that I paid twice.
Yeah, but the person who got, it's not fraud. Well, I'm not saying it's not fraud. I think the chances of the police arresting him, charging him with fraud and getting a case successful through the courts are slim, because they'd have to prove beyond reasonable doubt that it was always his intention to take your money and not do the work. And they would almost certainly, try it, but they will almost certainly, if you go to the police, say, I'm sorry, this is not a criminal matter, this is a civil matter. And in order to get your money back off him, you would have to take him to court. And in order for you to take him to court, he will have to still be trading as exactly the same firm as he was when the work should have been done. So the person, if you give the money to Allan Beswicks Builders and Windows Company, and you give me £1,400, and I don't do the work properly, and then you come after me and say, hey, Allan Beswicks, I want to talk to you. And I say, I'm not Allan Beswicks Windows and Roofs anymore. I'm Allan Beswicks, I don't know, Garages. Doesn't matter. Same firm, same bloke, same business, but not. I'm now a different company. So you sue the company that no longer exists. There's nobody there in that company to give you your money back.
Did they have a special fraud department, without having to go to the police? It's a bit.
Well, the police is the fraud department. There isn't. I mean, you could try your local trading standards organisation. That's the
I've been through all that.
And what was their response?
Well, it's called Ask Wirral now. So I've been through all that. The previous route, it was terrible, and then I've got onto this. And she's very good. This girl. She's the top of her profession there, and she has written letters, and we just have a chat on the phone about it. So she read a letter out that she'd sent to him that I'm old, I'm ill, I've lost my son, my husband, I live on my own, and he should, reimburse me. And since then, there's nothing.
And what has been there? Nothing. Just ignore.
Nothing's happened.
The only thing left open.
Not. That's what I wanted to ask you.
The only thing left open, Maureen.
£2,000, can you? It's going to cost you that much to get a solicitor.
Well, you don't need a solicitor in the small claim. You don't need a solicitor to go to.
Oh right.
You don't need a solicitor to go. You don't need a solicitor to go to the small claims procedure, as it's called, and that's all done on paper. However, the issue isn't can you sue him. The issue is, if you sue him and win, will you get your money? And it's very rare that you would. If you went to a solicitor, the solicitor would probably, on your behalf, write a letter to the firm. The chances of them getting a reply are quite slim, and in the end, the solicitor would say to you, if you want me to pursue it on your behalf, this is how much it will cost you per hour.
Yes,
and it wouldn't be cheap. You could bring the case in the county court small claims procedure. That costs money up front. It's not a bankrupting amount, but it's not cheap. And even then, you will only get your money in three terms, three conditions. One, that you win your case. That's the first one. And it sounds like you may well do that. Then, it depends on whether the firm, and you're talking about the man, but I'm talking about the firm, whether the firm is still trading and in exactly the same name and the same firm as when they didn't do your work properly. If they're a different firm now, you'd be suing something that no longer exists. And the third one is, even if you win, would he pay you?
Exactly.
And the answer, judging by his behaviour, might be no, he wouldn't.
No, that's what I mean. How people, this happens to people a lot of times, and I wonder why the government can't change the rules, that somebody can, take your money, change the name. Still the same people answering the phone, they're still carrying on with the different names.
The government do a lot of things. One of the things they do, and maybe they don't do enough, is to say to people, do not pay money up front. When you do pay with a credit card. And if the firm says, we don't take credit cards, and you have to agree this before they do the deal, if the firm says we don't take credit cards, say, well, I'll get somebody else that does. Because the credit card gives you some protection that cash, cheques and things like that do not.
It wouldn't take a cheque. I had banking order or something to move the money from my bank to his bank.
Right, so he would only take it if you did that, and a lot of them do. A lot of them do that because it provides no protection against them. So, in future, when you're having work of that magnitude done, just use firms that take credit cards. If they won't take a credit card, say, well, I'm not having it done, then I'll find someone that does. Well,
I thought he was a good firm, you see, and he seemed to be okay, and very friendly when he came.
What check? Of course he is. Nobody comes into your house to steal from you, and he's rude to you. What checks did you do about him?
He wouldn't take a check.
No. What investigations did you do before you agreed?
I didn't do any check. Well, I mean, I'm on my own. I don't know. I mean, I think a woman on her own, whatever age you are, you get a bad deal from a lot of these people, I've had a few of them. Money in their hands, £70 a day. Turn up, I've got to get the 10 to 10 bus, okay. I'll go at 3:10, is that okay? I've had to have certain things done that when my husband was very ill,
but this is when you say, I mean, I know it's easy for me sitting here, but if somebody comes to my house to do work, then I know, because we've agreed, exactly what they're going to do, and I will require them to, even if it's on the roof, I'll say, well, I want photographs of it. I'll pay you when I've seen the photo.
Man, no, you're not going to do it to a man. They do it to a woman all the time. I've been, the people, well, they're not tradesmen, I don't know what they call themselves, but, that was my heating. My heating allowance had to go on the roof.
I mean, it's absolutely horrible. But you say, they say they won't. You say they won't do it to a woman. They won't do it to a man. Men get ripped off every blessed day.
I didn't know it was only old women.
They do. No. Men get, some very sensible people get ripped off by it because they don't take.
I thought, but obviously with this fella, I'm not.
No, it's just taking the proper precautions, and it's a horrid world. But it's a world where we have to protect ourselves. It's no good relying on the tradesmen to protect us, because the
years ago you would rely on them. You knew they were going to do.
Well, we're not living. Maureen, we're not living years ago. We're living now.
I know.
And
well, how are you supposed to know who to get? That's what I mean.
Ask around. Ask other people. Say, yes, ask. So have you ever had work done on your roof? Oh yeah, Billy did it. He did a cracking job. Absolutely. Have you got his phone number?
Like absolutely, and they're all in their hand, money in their hand. You don't pay any tax on it,
Well, you don't know what they do with the money. So, but you're probably right in your assumption. But what you say is, first of all, if you need some work doing on your conservatory, then you I know. I'm just as an example. You talk to people that you know's got a conservatory. Have you ever had any work done on it? What were they like? Who did it? Were they any good? Brilliant, excellent, thank you.
Well, my husband built ours. It was a beautiful wooden one, but it started to rot. And because he was desperately ill and became, really ill, and so we thought, well, somebody cold call, okay, come over, we'll sort this out. Paid it up. But this is the conservatory. I've got half of one conservatory, the bottom, and the top is from the other fella who's supposed to have done the roof. So it's just a big tangle. I mean, it's just a bit. Well, I mean, I have to try not to think about it because I just have to say goodbye to that £2,400.
Well,
so I've lived and learned.
The process of getting it back, you'll never get the 1,000 back because they did the job.
I'm honest. That's what I always think. People on, they tell you, do this and do that. But you see, I knew the fella hadn't been on the roof. He didn't have a cat ladder. He only had the ladder, just unless he walked on the roof without ladders. But well, he left anyway. This fella. So I don't know. But the thing is, he's still on the internet here. He's still on. I can find him. And I can find the telephone number. Ring a woman. She says, "Oh, I'll tell him when he comes in." But I did, he put another voice on. Do you know?
Do you know his address? Do you know his address?
No, I know where the office is. It's in Irby, not far from where I am. I know where he.
Well, you don't mind. So you do know where the office is. You know the address.
Yeah, I know where the woman answers the phone.
Well,
if I saw his car, I know he had a black car.
No, I'm not bothered.
I better go stop other people talking about and get on with it. Anyway, thank you for the help. I mean, I know I didn't know.
It does seem that way, but
fraud. Yeah, was it called fraud?
But the trouble is, one interpretation of it is that it's fraud. But I promise you, ring the police and ask them.
Well, actually, I'll have a look. Yeah.
Ring the police and ask them, and they
Yeah.
don't be surprised if they say to you, "I'm sorry, love, that's a civil matter."
Yeah, that's fine. I'll do that. I'm not, as I say.
All right, and see how you
Yeah,
go.
all right, thank
And
you
you
very
never
much,
know.
Alan.
You might get a friendly copper who goes round and says, "Listen, we've
Yeah.
got our eye on you," and you don't know.
But there's
Maureen.
other people after him. When I was in the bank in the summer, a lady came in and she was swearing and asked the girl to get £500 out. You know that fella? She said, I know who you're talking about. I've had to get £500 for another fella to come and fix it. Same thing, you see. So it shouldn't be trading at all.
Well, of course
Okay,
you shouldn't.
thank you,
but,
Alan.
all right,
Thank you.
cheers.
Bye.
My commiserations. I'll do Chris.
You're right, Al.
I'm very well, thank you.
I had something else to talk about, but I was just listening to your previous caller. Am I allowed to say the name of a newspaper and a person who reports in that paper?
To what end? Why do you want to say that?
Who might help your previous caller, Maureen?
Yeah, okay, go on.
Andrew Penman at the Mirror.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He sorts stuff like that out. So it might be worth getting in touch with him.
Yeah, indeed. It's usually with big companies rather than small ones. But anyway.
Yeah. But, I felt sorry for her.
It's easy done. It's easy to do. I mean, there are so many cowboys about. It's just diabolical. Anyway, Chris, and thank you for that. But what did you come on for?
It was to talk about. It was one of your earlier callers, probably about 2 hours ago, I think. Talking about Men in Black and brainwashing.
Yes.
Well, what I think is we are, as a people, controlled by powers that be, but they're not Men in Black with magic ray guns. We're controlled by the economy, by the people who run the economy, the people who make money from it, the people who own the media.
Let me wonder what your solution to that might be.
You know what it is, Al, and I'm not even going to say it.
I can't put words in your mouth, and the people listening might not know, so I'm just leading you so that you can say it if you wish. Yeah, please do. Yes.
Yeah, no, the main point I was going to say is, when people come out with these conspiracy theories, I've heard loads of them, like, there are underground tunnels where the world's elite take little babies to drink the blood. That obviously doesn't happen. But there is an elite. There is people who have wealth who control poorer people. And I think that the elite put out these conspiracy theories so ordinary people hear people saying them and go, that's ridiculous. And then they think, the government's our friend, the media's our friend, we'll do everything they say.
Okay.
Do you get where I'm coming from?
Right, I understand the process of your argument, yes.
Because I don't believe that there's, what are they called, Illuminatis, or, any of the other, I'll call it nonsense. But I mean, people win elections because money's put behind them, and money comes from people who make money. Therefore, the whole capitalist system continues, and they'll do anything to. They'll morph like like a chimera. It'll just change its form to be more pleasing to the everyday eyes of the people who are basically the victims of it.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. I'll do Les.
All right, Al.
Very well, thank you.
All right, mate. What he was saying about the speed limits on the motorways.
Yes.
and you got onto the subject about when you said about if one car breaks, you can have a knock-on effect right back. So about 100, maybe 150 cars.
Yeah.
And then the last quote was about rubbernecking. And he said that everybody rubbernecks. Well, that can't be the case, can it?
Why can it not be?
Right, okay then. So if the first car breaks, it has a knock-on effect. So I've been in motorway. I do motorways all my life. If the car in front of me, it's his brakes, and then the car behind them, and the car behind them, and the car behind them, I'm 15 cars, maybe 20 cars, 30 cars back. I'm not rubbernecking. I'm just following suit of the car, of the flow of the cars.
I think he said that he was talking about people on the other side, going the other way, and he was talking about people slowing down to look at something that's going on.
They're not rubbernecking. Even they're not rubbernecking. They've got to slow down because the guy in front is at his brakes, so he's got to do the same, and it's his brakes, and he's got to do the same, and it's his brakes. So the whole crowd aren't rubbernecking. It's the one in the front that starts.
I take your point that not every individual who's stuck in a jam or is in the vicinity of an accident on the other carriageway, not everybody is rubbernecking, but those that are rubbernecking make a contribution to an unjust and unfair contribution to the delays on the motorways. I think that was his point.
I don't. No. The thing is, right,
Fair enough.
as you said, all it takes is one car to hit the brakes, and it snowballs.
Yeah.
And I've been in loads of situations.
And his point was the point on the person on the other side of the motorway that looks at the incident, which may just be a traffic jam of the type you just described. He's rubbernecking. He slows down to look. The repercussions of that reflect backwards for sometimes miles.
So there's only one. So it starts off with one rubbernecker.
Indeed.
Exactly. But people say they're all rubbernecking.
I think you agree with the gentleman in many ways, but yes, sometimes it might.
Only for the first one switches brakes, and then your scenario, what you said, is it snowballs back to 100 cars.
Yeah,
and you can't blame everyone in that queue. So you can't blame everyone in that queue.
I don't think he was blaming everyone in that queue, but it's not my job to defend him. And you think the implication of what he said is as you describe it, and I'm happy with that, Les. So thank you. How do John?
How do Alan? Quick question, mate. How come there was a bit of crackling and interference then when I was on hold?
No idea.
It was like cut you off for a few seconds there, mate. But nevertheless, I was them off. Two quick topics. Towards the the hospital crisis there, with the pay. The working in the conditions there. I've seen a program the other day there, and the hospitals are crumbling around them, and they're working in them terrible conditions.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was just thinking about your view towards that. So if you go out walking there or reading your paper and you get knocked over there because you're reading your paper, you want to be looked after, wouldn't you, in Wales?
Well, anywhere I got knocked over, really.
Yeah, but would you give... Actually, there's another thing, Alan. Would you give the homeless people something, some food or some money when you come out of the shop there to buy your paper?
No.
Why?
Why should I?
Because you said last time when I asked you this about your diet as well, you said you don't believe in begging.
I didn't say I don't believe in begging. You can't not believe in begging.
Oh, you did. I've got it on there. I've got it there.
I said, right, I don't care whether you play it back or not. I won't hear it. I've got better things to do with my time. I said I don't believe in paying money to beggars.
Is that not the same thing?
No.
Right. So
towards the first topic there about the crumbling hospitals. All this money's getting spent left, right, and centre on like Ukraine and Turkey and stuff like that. Pop-up hospitals, you know, makeshift hospitals. We can't do it ourselves to look after our own people. So, where is the, you know, I don't know, what would you call it?
I don't know, it's your sentence.
Well, basically, look after our own. Why we look at pop-up hospitals everywhere around the world, helping everyone else, and ours are crumbling around our feet, and our nurses and doctors have to work in them conditions.
Well, because some people believe that is the global charitable thing to do.
So, while we're doing that, but it's all falling around our heads and our knees and our heads on our toes. And that's happening towards our people there, for them doctors and nurses to work in them conditions. Alan?
And? Yeah, you said that before, and then you said why, and I said because some people believe it is the international charitable thing to do.
Right, well, I don't really grasp that. What you're trying to say towards that, because as you all know, why would charity starts at home?
Well, yeah. I don't accept that.
Well, I'm saying that.
Well, John, you didn't just say it, you said, and I quote, as you well know, referring to me. Well,
okay.
I don't know that because I disagree with you, but do go on.
Right, second topic. How much force can you use if someone breaks into your house?
There is no answer to that. I can give you the answer, but it's a meaningless answer, and that is a reasonable amount of force.
Which is what?
That's why I can't give you an answer. The word reasonable depends on the specific circumstances at the time.
So could you sit them down and say, please don't break into my house, there's a cup of tea or coffee?
Yes, you could do that.
Or can you just stab them in the leg?
Well, again, that, as I said, depends upon the specific circumstances at the time.
So left cheek or right cheek of buttock?
It depends on the circumstances at the time.
So if someone was coming in to steal your video equipment from your house
I haven't
in
got
Wales,
video equipment.
I didn't say video equipment, I said radio equipment.
No, I'm going a bit deaf. It's my age.
Right, no, well, it happens to all of us, and it happens to the best of us. So what?
Well, it certainly is doing here, but I can't speak for you. But go on.
So which force, what kind of reasonable force would you use?
I would use
A, strangling with a microphone wire around the neck.
I've already answered. I'd already answered. You might have heard it if you shut your mouth for a little second or two.
Oh, I like that. Go on, fantastic.
Good night. I'll do to Jessica.
Hello. I'd have to stab him it like I'm only 5'1".
Very good.
Yeah, it's interesting the people who said charity should begin at home. What they mean is charity should end there.
That is exactly what they mean.
Yeah. Anyway, the lady with the builder problem.
Yeah.
I won't say if builders try to take advantage of women. It just depends on the woman. Right, but the local council and probably Age Concern will have a list of approved builders. You know, reputable builders.
Yeah, they do. They do often, yes.
And I reminded, many years ago I was in Wolverhampton, and I saw a builder's sign, and it really made me laugh. And it still makes me chuckle. It said, fed up of cowboys, try the Indians. Same brothers, builders.
Very good, yes. Excellent. Good on you, Jessica. Have a good night. Bye. I'll do Lindsay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, I've just been out tonight for a meal. Quite a busy restaurant, and the amount of people, I'm quite nosy and like look around and just like stare at people. And the amount of people that I see licking their knives, it's I just go. It's just a pet hate.
Well, fine.
And then we went to a pub afterwards, karaoke. Absolutely, I'm a bit like nervous because I just after COVID, this pub and it was just like crowded. I'm sorry, it's just like set me off. I just didn't. I just think everyone was like, felt like a sardine. I just feel like Thursday I have to come in and shower. It was.
That's pubs for you.
But it was really crowded. I just like sitting saying to my friend, "I want to go. I've got to get out." I just think since COVID, it seems to be people are just as if it's forgotten about.
Well, do what I did. Don't go in pubs. Solved. How do Ted?
All right, Alan, just to say, you know the Angel of the North, Alan?
Yes.
It looks like a giant, but it also looks like a totem pole, doesn't it?
I don't know. I've not seen a totem pole that high and with its arms outstretched, but I suppose you could say that.
And the wings, it look like airplane wings. They don't look like real bird wings, do they?
Well, it's not a bird.
Well, it's a human, isn't it? It's supposed to be a human, a giant human with wings. No, the wings.
I think it's an artistic interpretation of an angel, hence the name Angel.
Yeah. Well, it looks like a totem pole and all, doesn't it?
Well, I've seen it a few times and never thought, oh, look, there's a totem pole, but you may see it as that, I don't know.
All right, Alan. Thank you, Alan. Thanks, kid. Thanks.
All right, have a good one. How do Arnold?
How do Alan? Alan, how do Alan? You tell me how you are, Alan, yeah? Go on.
Very well, thank you. I am.
You got your jeans on? You got a suit and tie on?
No.
No, you got your slippers on?
I don't wear slippers.
Right. What can you say? I can see a fridge, a mirror, kettle. I've got my telly on in my living room, Sky News. I don't think it's a porn on. 50,000 dead in the Turkey earthquake. Not a tale. And don't you think, anything that's going to make you start thinking, like, I live in Rosdale, and, oh yeah, I've got a nephew in Wrexham, Darryl Andrew Bird with his family. I've got a nephew in Cheddarton, Oldham. I've got a nephew in Downley. I've got another nephew in Downley. I've got a daughter in Rochdale, a daughter in Berry, I think married to Bolton. I've got, Alan. I've got you and me, brother. In his house, you've got the whole... So what time is it, Alan? What time is on your watch?
10. Ta-da.
With the BBC News at 1 o'clock, this is Tyler Dunn. Rishi Sunak says he's giving it everything to get a new agreement with the European Union on post-Brexit trading rules for Northern Ireland. Expectations are growing that a deal could be announced soon, with the Irish Prime Minister saying talks are inching towards a conclusion. The current arrangement has angered unionist politicians who are refusing to restore the devolved government in Belfast. Here's our political correspondent Ian Watson.
The Prime Minister has said that promising progress has been made, but work is still to be done, and he's taken to the pages of usually conservative supporting newspapers to reassure critics in his own ranks that any deal won't be a sellout. Much of the heavy lifting with the EU appears to have been done already. It's widely expected that checks on goods travelling from Great Britain to Northern Ireland would be reduced or eliminated. But getting a revised deal with the EU on trade won't in itself convince Northern Ireland's DUP to return to a power-sharing government at Stormont.
A sixth man has been arrested in connection with the shooting of an off-duty police officer in County Tyrone. The 71-year-old is being detained under the Terrorism Act. Detective Chief Inspector John Caldwell remains in a critical condition in hospital. Alison Morris, who's a crime correspondent for the Belfast Telegraph, thinks the authorities were caught off guard.
He's the most senior officer to be targeted in Northern Ireland since the Good Friday Agreement, and actually quite a distance before that, probably in the last 30 years. In the previous attacks, we've seen uniform officers have had bombs placed under their car, or there's been gun attacks on uniform officers. But for an attack like this on someone of the seniority of John Caldwell, it's something that I don't think that the police seen coming.
Finance ministers from the major G20 countries who've been holding talks in India have failed to agree a closing statement because of differences over the war in Ukraine. India said Russia and China had objected to parts of the document condemning Russian aggression. Thousands of social housing managers in England will be required to gain qualifications as part of government plans to improve standards. The change is in response to the death of a 2-year-old in a mouldy flat and the Grenfell Tower disaster. Sheffield will become the latest city in the UK to introduce a clean air zone from tomorrow. Drivers of the most polluting vehicles will now be charged to enter the designated area. These cyclists in Bristol have mixed views about whether a similar scheme worked in their city.
I think everyone in Bristol agrees that we all have a bad cough that lingers, and I think the air quality is terrible. Anything we can do to improve it, I fully support.
I'm not really seeing a difference. Are my lungs better? No, they're the same as they were last year as well. So,
as a cyclist, it hasn't made the roads any quieter.
One of the UK's leading charities for deaf people wants hearing tests to be included in NHS health checks for patients in their 40s and 50s. The RNID says the test could reduce the risk of dementia, which research suggests is more likely to develop in middle-aged people with hearing loss. BBC News, it's now 3 minutes past 1.